you have is the phone situation.
Saving America one mind at a time. This is Smith Radio. And now, your hosts, Carrie and Brian Smith.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smith Radio. Your host, Brian Smith, and
Carrie Smith,
giving you all the late-breaking details of last week, wrapping it all up, telling you what's going on. You know what? I think I've got the piece to that, so that's not going to work. But you could probably use this one over here.
Apparently, somebody took apart our entire studio, and now we are trying to put it back together to get this show underway. So, gosh, what an incredibly busy week.
What are you talking about? Nothing happened.
Oh, I don't get it. So, this is the funniest thing. I walk into the studio and my computer has no keyboard nor a mouse.
It had a mouse.
I'm sure it did. It had a mouse last week. Oh my gosh, this is so professional. Anyway,
we're going to be talking about, as the title of the show says, we're going to give you the absolute fact behind the Syrian airstrikes. We're going to tell you exactly what happened. We're going to lay it all out. You're going to know when you're done with this show today. You're going to
definitely be smarter. I promise you that.
Without a doubt. We're also going to touch on Seth Rich.
Yeah, Seth Rich.
I don't know if you know who he is, but he used to work for the DNC. He no longer works there anymore. Just a heads up for the DNC. Seth Rich doesn't work there.
Okay.
Just letting you know. So we're going to get into that. Why? Muslims terrorizing the world again and again, going after...
Oh, there was a terrorist attack too.
Going after Christians, as they always do. They like to go after those Christians, so we'll get into that. We're going to talk about the different countries that agree with Trump and that disagree with Trump's decision this week. And I've got an incredible article from Politico. Two writers from Politico. One story will actually shock you of what she wrote, and the other article, the other story, it kind of falls in line with Politico being the fake news that it is. But anyways, the breaking news, ISIS today being Palm Sunday. For those of you that are Christians around the world, this is the Sunday before Easter, which is the day that Jesus came back from the dead. And I didn't even give out the call. So if you want to be on the show or call in, you have something to say about what's going on, you can call in 513-888-1538. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, our Twitter handle at Smith Radio, also at BrianPSmith.com. You can find us there on the Twitter handle as well. And like I said, we're breaking news today. ISIS claims responsibility for Palm Sunday 2 bombings, killing 37 Christians in Egypt. Apparently, that's their MO. That's what happens. Sweden, Stockholm. It's a weekly occurrence. It's kind of what happens. I'm going to touch on a little bit more of Socialism 101 and what that looks like currently on display worldwide. But we can take a magnifying glass and look right at Venezuela.
Oh, boy.
They're breaking news as well this week.
I can't wait to hear about that.
Sanctuary cities. Oh, my goodness. Law enforcement cracking down on...
Really?
Who are they cracking down on?
I don't know. Who?
Officials not enforcing the law.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I like it. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we would expect. I was talking to my dad earlier this week, and he said... I can't believe that people are getting away with what they're getting away with now. You go back to the 50s and 60s, and this was unheard of. And there's a lot of things he's referring to. You know, you could talk about government officials who are breaking the law, and that would be like sanctuary cities type of thing. But, you know, he expanded it to the threats on the president. A lot of just completely unanswered threats of shooting the president and whatnot. It's ridiculous.
I'm shocked at how many people are brazenly willingly just to put on. Well, I'm shocked at what people put on their social media to begin with.
Right.
I mean, there's all kinds of stories about people being fired. There was one post, a girl posted, "Oh, I just started this new job and the boss is an ass and I hate the job. It stinks." She put that on Facebook and somebody screenshotted it, sent it to the boss, and the boss, and this screenshotted his replies, "Don't worry, you're fired."
Don't worry.
Don't worry, you're fired.
There's nothing to worry about.
So with people putting up on social media how they want to murder the president, I don't care who he is. The president of the United States could be Democrat, Republican, could be black, could be white.
He's our president. And you know what? That's a direct attack on the United States.
Could be a woman. Could be. Maybe one day. Transgendered. Ivanka. Could be anybody. So, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And something else. McGuffey Reader.
Okay.
Remember, this goes way back when we were in school. We used to have these books called, the name of the book was McGuffey. And, well over 100 years ago, he was commissioned as a young lad to write these school books because he was doing such a great job at it. So he continued to write these books. And before 1978, 79, when Jimmy Carter made the Department of Education its own entity, enriching it by the tune of billions of dollars, throw more money at it. There was something that we used called the McGuffey Reader. And ironically, when we first began to homeschool our children, we originally went with something called K-12.
Yeah.
K-12 is a free program, free computers, free books, free everything. Everything's shipped to you free printer, and a free printer scanner, and they'll also pay for half of your internet bill. You just send them your internet bill.
That. Yeah, I remember when you were talking about that. Yep.
This is a government program by the state of Ohio called K-12, and it might be different names in different states, and it might be the same thing in different states. But anyways, this is the state of Ohio, and I told my wife when she first started doing this, I said, be careful, take your time, whatever. Within a week, she was completely overwhelmed, said, I'm not doing this. This is impossible. I saw my kids start their homeschool 9 o'clock in the morning and could not ever finish the curriculum 5 o'clock at night. Couldn't finish it. I looked at her and told her, I said, no, it's not you. It's the program. The biggest movement of homeschooling in America right now, the government's getting its piece of the pie by convincing you folks who are smart and intelligent that you can't do it, by overwhelming you and running you out of the business of teaching your children. She talked to the teacher that she corresponded with, and my wife did, and the teacher's like, oh, they were in kindergarten, first grade. Yeah. Well, do your best, whatever you can, but don't worry about this, don't worry about that. And she said, well, what about this social studies?
Okay.
In first grade and kindergarten, you're supposed to do social studies.
It depends on what they're talking about.
They're talking about our society and the racism that was.
Because America is founded on racism.
Correct. And so the teacher told my wife, "Oh, don't worry about that, and that." So it became to be a big joke to us. We scrapped the whole project, gave it all back, and said we're going to do this on our own. And my wife found this program to where it's very simple. It's very easy. Your kids will master reading and master mathematics, and that's literally all they need to master to find out what they want to do in life. And part of that is called the McGuffey Reader. And my wife was talking to me about it. She's like, hey, there's this advanced comprehension program, this fourth reader, because my one daughter is excelling in reading. My other daughter is excelling in math. So she said, let's get her into this advanced comprehension that she'll help her develop and her words and writing and stuff like that. I said, okay, great. She showed me the book, the McGuffey Reader. She showed it to me. She said, this is the description of what advanced comprehension is. I read it, and this is why McGuffey is banned from every government school and probably private schools had been convinced to ban it as well, because I don't know anybody studying this.
So what is it then? Now you got me intrigued now. I want to know what this McGuffey thing is.
McGuffey Reader.
Okay. So it's like a magazine or something? Like a publication?
Booklets. Yeah,
Okay.
all these different little booklets.
Like how often do they come out?
No. It was written 100 years ago.
Okay, so it's kind of like like an encyclopedia with volumes.
Correct. And these
But they're small.
correct.
Okay, because honestly, you're educating me right now. I didn't know about this.
My wife has done a phenomenal job. I've dropped the ball. All I do is I listen to her and she tells me what's good. So she's doing a phenomenal job.
Okay.
Advanced comprehension. At the high school level, a student understands a variety of viewpoints and can think about more abstract ideas. McGuffey Fourth Reader provides this kind of reading practice. It presents important themes for advanced students to study. Themes such as freedom, patriotism, truth, religion, life values, and eternity. It also has high literary. I need to go back. Literary qualities, including selections from Shakespeare, Milton, Byron, and other great English writers, as well as selections from the Bible.
Wow.
Advanced seventh, and with
Where is
8th grades.
Where is the separation of church and state? I am outraged. I'm triggered right now.
Seventh and 8th graders can study this Fourth Reader, but for the most part, it's for high school level.
So what time range were these things made?
Early 1900s,
Okay.
turn of the century, back like 125 years. Like, you can't find these anywhere, and now they're reproducing them and reprinting them.
Oh, good.
Specifically for homeschoolers, they're looking for this, and so my wife is seeing it online. It's hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Oh, right.
Somebody's put it on a disc, on a CD, to where you just print it off on your printer.
Well, that sounds good, but it sounds like a lot of printing, though.
A lot of printing, a lot more money. She was with my parents at this huge farm flea market way out in Batesville, Brookville, Indiana. It's these guys with huge farm, and everybody gets there at the crack of dawn, and they sell their goods in this big field. So she's walking through the field, and she sees the entire volume.
And where was this?
Out there in Indiana at this big.
So it was
huge
like
farm
original,
field.
like 100-year-old original.
The reprints.
Oh, okay,
but
I gotcha.
still very old
I
reprints.
gotcha.
Still old reprints.
All right.
And but from the original, and it was the whole set, which was hundreds of dollars. And she asked the guy how many. He's like,
Dollar.
$5. What do you got? $5, $10. She's like,
Yeah, I'll take it. You got two?
You got to do more.
got two.
So we get the whole set from a flea market.
Like there's none missing?
No,
Yeah. It's all there.
Yeah.
And you have it.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you got to let me borrow that. Oh, I got a 10-year-old daughter. She's about to be 11. I mean, she's not in high school yet. You're saying it was kind of like high school level.
Right, but McGuffey's saying that 7th and 8th graders can do it. And the biggest thing is that kids advance, you and I both know, kids advance at different levels and different things. In this homeschooling program, what they do is that if you excel at reading, then they jam reading down your throat to where you enjoy what you do well.
Kind of like your oldest daughter.
That's right.
As opposed to your younger daughter who probably doesn't like to do that much.
Not that much. So she's excelling in math, and then we just do the reading and get her caught up. And it's no big deal.
Right.
But we jam her with math and jam the other one with English. And you just kind of work with that. And I tell you, that's what they used to do to get us all so smart. And now I get reports from high school teachers who are very close friends of ours.
And they want it. You should do the
they're in tears at their school because they have to friend the students to keep from being beat up.
You mean like they have to accept them on Facebook? Or you mean actually friend them?
Yes.
Well, hold on, Brian. You got to understand how public school works.
The teacher's got a hot button like a bank underneath the desk to hit security.
What you got to do is you got to friend the toughest one there. Once you befriend the toughest one there, then you become that student's bitch. And at that point, you'll be protected, you know? And that's how you do it. That's how you do it. The one with the tattoo on the chest, that's the one you friend.
Or the neck or the face.
Right.
And you let them slide on everything.
They got thug life written in ballpoint pen across their stomach. Go ahead and friend that one, right? And then you're good to go from that point on. That's how you do it. I mean, that's the way you got to do it. And if you don't know that, you're listening to Smith Radio, and now you know.
So I know that was a long-winded opening, but I really wanted to get that off my chest.
I had no idea. I didn't ever hear about that. But, you know, I've been preaching. I think my number one issue, and if you've listened to me long enough, because I bring it up whenever I can, but I don't usually bring it up out of the blue. It's usually I read something on Twitter or read something in an article where people are talking about issues in politics and what should conservatives be tackling as an issue in order to wrestle back America from the communists. And my number one issue every time, hands down, head and shoulders above all the rest of the issues right now, is got to be education. The Department of Education has been infiltrated and taken over by communists, and they've instituted a curriculum to indoctrinate students from the very youngest levels all the way up to through grad school to embrace and accept and pursue and push communism. And if you don't believe me, why do you think that students who graduated from high school and enter into college now all of a sudden need puppies and crayons and all this stuff to avoid being triggered, safe spaces, if you will? Joey Manarino is a friend of mine on Your Voice who is in college right now, and he takes pictures of this stuff and posts it on Twitter and points out that this stuff is actually really happening because it's unbelievable. It's not even believable when you say that 20-year-old people, adults in a school, need crayons and puppies to pet in a safe space. Oh, they were doing naps.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They were curling up in a nap.
Now, you got to ask yourself, what happened to these people? Well, they were brought up through a modern day high school, elementary school, junior high, all that, where they were indoctrinated into this leftist thinking, where there's victimhood and they're always the victim. You know, you fit into some minority class where the oppressive white male is victimizing you. And so they develop these triggers in you, and when those triggers happen, you have the reaction. You become triggered, and you need puppies and crayons and Play-Doh. They were literally giving Play-Doh to 20-year-old adults. It's just crazy. So, and this happens because our education. And by the way, the flip side of this is, you know what the expense is at teaching our kids to become good little communist shills is the actual education. If you rate our students in America against students from all over the world, we're way down. We're way down on the list of properly educated kids and adults. They're not educated. They're really far behind in all the STEM topics, your sciences, your math and technology and all that's engineering. And it's because the communists don't care about that. The communists want to indoctrinate the kids so that they become what keeps them in power. That's what this is all about. It's all about keeping the elites in power. And that's why leftists become communist leaders in politics, because they know that the system is rigged in their favor when they go in there as a communist. So some of them actually believe it. I think maybe, I don't know, out of all the communist politicians out there, probably, I don't know, I'm just speculating here, but maybe half or maybe a little bit more than half actually truly believe in that ideology. And the other half are just like, hey, this is what keeps me in power. I got to keep the little man oppressed and making them think that they have to keep me in power in order to somehow help their life out, when in actuality, they're keeping them down forever. It's like a perpetual oppression is what leftism, socialism, communism is. And this all comes from the Department of Education. If we were to teach kids, red pill them. If we red pill society, they're gone. Socialism, communism, bread lines. What's going on in Venezuela? I mean, Brian's got a whole thing today talking about Venezuela.
I'm trying to get
That's where it ends up.
Right. I'm trying to get to the bottom of. I'm getting a lot of fake news. So apparently, in 2015, the top country in the world was South Korea, spending 11.
Interesting.
11. What was it, 11?
Okay,
11 billion?
I went to South Korea.
Yeah, $11 billion for their education system.
I was in South Korea for 30 days on deployment, and that was during a full 6-month stay in Asia. And I'll tell you this about Korea. You don't even need to go there to figure this out. South Korea was the firewall to keep communism from, the dominoes. If you know anything about the Cold War, it was all about the dominoes falling, right? And that was the domino that was propping up the fallen domino, which was North Korea. North Korea is still communist, but during the Soviet days, during the Cold War, you had North Korea trying to take over South Korea, so it was one communist nation, is what they were trying to do. We fought in the Korean War to prevent that from happening. We didn't want that domino to fall. So what they did with South Korea was turn it into an example of what free market capitalism can do. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So because it became this example of capitalism, they made sure that it was fully free market capitalism, that it was flourishing, that they didn't let too much socialism be introduced. That doesn't mean there was no socialism whatsoever. I'm sure there's safety nets and there's regulations, but nothing like what you see in like a regular European city or something like that. So it makes sense to me that they excel in those kind of.
I teach my children that South Korea, they're down with us. They're good people. Israel, good people, down with it. I mean, when I talk about down with us, I'm talking about democracy, freedom, capitalist type society where people flourish and are allowed to live free. I just got a crack producer hot on the spot. Did a phenomenal job tonight.
We cracked the whip on him.
Okay, so America is 17th or below on the list, depending on which list you look at on countries for education, efficient and effective education. North Korea is number one. South Korea is number one. North Korea.
If I read something that said North Korea was number one, I'd be like, wow, they're not even hiding how fake they are.
Right. South Korea is number one. Now check this out. They spend per student around $7,000.
Interesting. I wonder how much America spends per student.
And that happens to be 7% of their GDP.
Okay.
That point's pretty critical here.
Okay. All right. I'll put that in the old back burner there.
America. $15,000 per student.
Oh man, is it that high now?
15,171.
I remember several years ago it was like 9,000 or something like that. It's up to 15,000. That's terrible.
That just happens to be 7% of the GDP.
That may have been the argument for spending that much.
Yes! They're like, well, South Korea's spending 7%.
We need to spend 7%.
7%, even though our GDP is probably more than double, triple what they got.
And I don't know about your city. I don't know. But I will tell you this. In Cincinnati, they have been tearing down perfectly good public school buildings and rebuilding state-of-the-art, completely overpriced $50 million palaces for elementary schools. Literally.
There was a high school out in South Central. This is dead serious. South Central LA.
Yeah.
It's a high school. One of the worst neighborhoods, gang infested, just awful area in South Central.
Okay.
I had a shop down there.
Right. Because you like the challenge.
Yeah, it was all about the challenge. They tore down an old manufacturing building. The government seized the land, eminent domain, and tore the building down because nobody would buy it.
Right, okay.
Because it's in the worst neighborhood ever.
Okay.
There's no workers because they're all getting a check from the government.
The government, yeah, okay. I see that.
So the company moved out. They bought it. This section of land that they overtook, 2-3 football field sizes, enormous area. Put a $500 million facility.
No way.
It is
that much?
It is an enormous structure. It is huge. It's also got an adult education on the backside. The
$500 million. That's not even
the architecture, the stainless steel architecture.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yes,
they dug him out of the ground.
It was unbelievable.
They did Weekend at Bernie's with Frank Lloyd Wright.
And the amount of land.
Okay.
It's unconscionable.
I wonder if they got anything for that investment.
Well,
they'll argue it. I
Yeah.
guarantee you those leftists will argue it. And you know what they'll say if they come up short? We should have spent $700 million instead of $500 million.
It's just down the road, just a couple miles down the way, still in the same bad area. They tore down an elementary school, $50 million on a rebuild for a beautiful. I mean, the architect, and it's out of place because the place is in South Central,
Right.
and everybody looks at it like, what the?
Are they building a prison?
Right. What is this? Oh. So the education system's out of control. And when the lefties all are screaming and hating on the new the Secretary of Education.
Oh, DeVos.
DeVos.
Yeah, Betsy.
Betsy DeVos.
Yeah.
The more they scream and hate on her, SNL, doing that skit, making fun of her, the more I know she's probably the right person.
Yes, that is a good bellwether.
So we're going to get into
real quick before we move on. I wanted to contrast that in Cincinnati, tearing down perfectly good buildings for public schools, building these $50 million castles. We have a very robust private school system here. It's the Catholic school system. It's it has a very strong Catholic following. Lots of big Catholic churches here in Cincinnati, and so they have Catholic schools. These buildings are not rebuilt. They're not torn down. There are some additions over the years. They'll do an add-on, and it's not very often. It's usually as needed if the enrollment goes way up. A lot of these buildings are very old. Some of them over 100 years old. Elder High School, Mercy, very old schools, very old, and they generally try to renovate areas as they can, but these schools are where you send your kid in Cincinnati if you want to actually get a real education and not homeschool.
Right.
And so this whole thing of wasting $50 million on a new building when you had a perfectly good building prior to that that's what the government does. And it's just wasteful. It's so dumb. And the proof is, contrast it with the private schools that aren't ripping out. It's not about the building. The building isn't teaching your kid. It's not inspiring your kid. As soon as they see that beautiful Frank Lloyd Wright $500 million castle that they're going to go in, kids are kids. They don't like school. They're going to start to hate that because it's school.
Yeah.
And that's that.
We all had nightmares and dreams of walking down the hallway naked, just lost,
Do you think
scared.
elder students are going in, showing up every day and looking up at because they have the old, like it's a 100-year-old building.
It's real architecture.
Yeah, it's like from 100 years ago.
Right.
And they look up and say, wow.
It's kind of Gothic though, isn't it? A
A little bit Gothic looking. Well, Mercy's even more.
Super
Mercy,
cool.
yeah.
I mean, these buildings are historic buildings that these kids go to school in.
Right. And so they probably look up at them and say, wow, I'm so glad I go here. And I'm so glad I woke up this morning to get to go here. No, they're kids just like everybody else. And they're like, oh gosh, I hate this place.
When's summer break coming?
Yeah, it's not the building people anyway. So moving on. That was our Department of Education rant.
Right. And I was just wanting to say that when I do a lot of comparing and contrasting. If somebody hates this or they hate that, or somebody likes this or they like that, and when I say somebody, politician, country, whatever, I look at the person that is hating on this, and if that person is a liberal, a Democrat, whatever they be, I know what their agenda is. We know what their agenda is.
Right.
We can see after doing this for 4 years on the air, Smith Radio for 4 years, it has become so crystal clear to be able to see through these people and see through their lives and know what they're going to do next, know what's going to come up next. I mean, the camera turns on and it's Susan Rice and she's about to speak, and you go, you get to scratch the record, just turn it off, change the channel or something. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do here with the Syrian airstrikes. There's a lot of information on the left, on the right, in the middle.
There's so much to this story. There's the actual story of what happened with Syria, what happened with our response to it, what's going on with Russia, and all the other players involved. But then there's the whole story of the reactions.
Yeah.
And like the interpretations.
Like this reaction.
I know nothing about this.
Okay, moving on. Oh my goodness!
You know who that was?
Was that Susan Rice?
That was Susan Rice.
Oh, of course it was. Of course it was. I know nothing about this.
And I put together, you know how SNL and CBS, NBC, ABC, all the likes, MSNBC, you know how they take audio from somebody, like a conservative, and kind of chop it up?
Yeah.
And they have fun with it.
Yeah.
Well, every once in a while.
present it as real.
Right.
It's called fake news. But anyway.
Every once in a while, and we're going to get to the Syrian airstrikes. This is no distraction. We're not getting off the rails here. Every once in a while, I get in this mood to where I'm doing show prep, and all of a sudden, dude, this could go together really well in a weird way.
Okay. I mean, I kind of think of that stuff all the time. I just don't actually execute it.
Well, if it falls in my lap, I can't help it. And this was Susan Rice's interview about Obama, Russia, Trump, the Spygate, all that stuff. This is real short, 46 seconds. Now, I did take her interview and cut and splice it, so this is fun. It may not be factual, but they're her words.
All right. Well, at least
I'm not aware of any connection. I found that report a bit perplexing. I was not aware of any orders given to disseminate that kind of information. So I have no idea whether that was the case. I know nothing about this. I was surprised to see reports from Chairman Yunus on that count today. So today, I really don't know to what Chairman Nunes was referring, but he said that whatever he was referring to was a legal, lawful surveillance, and that it was potentially incidental collection on American citizens. And I think it's important for people to understand what incidental means. That means that the target was Trump.
The target was Trump.
Nice job, Mr. Producer. Oh, the target was Trump.
But that was her. I don't know. And then come find out she does know. But we'll talk about that.
CNN did that, where they edited the 911 call for the Zimmerman trial or whatever. Not trial, but report, to make it sound like he was basically going after Trayvon Martin because he was black.
911, what's your call? He's black. He's black.
That's pretty much what happened. So,
where do we begin with the Syrian strikes? Thursday, we find out 2 weeks ago, Trump said we will not use military intervention. We're not going after them. Trump's advisor said, yeah, no, we're not doing that. And then within a few days, they're like, yeah, it's back on the table.
Well, there was the attack there were some attacks in Syria, and that resulted in some sarin gas being released.
Apparently 53, I'm been told 53 died, and 11 of them were children.
Okay. And I'm not sure about the numbers. I did hear about the 11 children.
Yeah.
Some facts on it. And believe me, there is no way we have enough time to go through all the facts that people brought up.
Well, not only that, but something we talked about last night, you and I talked about last night. Folks, you've got to understand we live in America.
America? Okay.
We live in the city of Cincinnati.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Syria is on the other side of the pond.
Okay.
Okay, it's kind of far away.
Yeah.
And they don't have something like the intranets and stuff.
The interwebs.
The interwebs.
Yeah.
Okay, on the ground, reporting in Syria is rough, tough.
I'm sure, yeah. Absolutely. Unless you're a 7-year-old girl.
Because apparently 7-year-old girls in Turkey know what's going on in
Well,
Syria.
not only that, but they have great internet because they're able to cast and all that kind of stuff from there. And
They're very articulate and clean.
well, they're articulate in English. English, apparently.
Shocking.
Yeah,
We'll get into that. That's
oh, my gosh.
inside joke for now, but it'll all unravel as the show unravels.
If you follow us, you probably know all this stuff. We're just kind of rehashing it. But so an attack happened. It sounds like Assad attacked some rebels.
Right.
And then there was sarin gas
Released.
And then a bunch of people died, civilians and children. And it was heart-wrenching, and it was really difficult to see and look at.
The videos that we looked at last night.
I never saw the videos, but Brian's really good at getting on some unsavory websites.
No, it was on that stuff was on Twitter.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, so
it was
Brian
tweeted out by
downloaded.
people
Okay.
in the area, apparently.
Oh, they do have internet then.
Yeah, somebody had a cell phone tower.
All right.
Well, you know, they went straight from landlines. They didn't have any phone whatsoever, and they just jumped straight into cell phones. Because it's easier to build a tower.
Right.
And give
That's
everybody
true.
a cell phone.
And we may have even reported on that a long time ago about how that works.
Years ago.
Yeah, several years ago. So here's the thing. The initial reports from everywhere was that Assad dropped sarin gas on civilians when he was attacking some rebel warehouse. And then shortly after, Assad denied it, said, no, we don't use those, whatever. And Russia came out and said, no. What they did was they bombed a warehouse that the rebels were using to store the sarin gas. And so the conventional bombs that blew up released the gas.
And let me tell you, folks.
So these are the reports.
I'm more likely to believe that than not.
Well, and here's the thing. Assad
was already told by America that we weren't coming to get you. We weren't going to use military action against you. And so why would he just go ahead and do this?
Well, not that, but he was almost completely on the verge of total victory against the rebels.
Right.
So there's these facts are something you got to kind of weigh on your mind. And I'm not trying to sway you one way or another. Just don't ignore facts.
Right.
You know what I mean? And before, let's go full disclosure. I don't know about Brian. I'm not going to speak for Brian. But I'll tell you right now that I got to still remain on the fence. And as we talk more and more about facts, there's a lot of conflicting facts out there. And when I say facts, I mean, you know, when you say that it's a fact that Assad denied using chemical weapons, and it's a fact that they did bomb a warehouse, and it could have been that Assad dropped chemical weapons, and it could have been that he dropped conventional weapons on a site that was housing chemical weapons.
And that's what he claims. He claims they were housing chemical weapons. We did drop 59 Tomahawks on chemical weapons.
Well, there's disputes on that report.
Right.
They're saying that we dropped them we dropped them on planes because the planes were used to deploy chemicals. So we bomb the plane so that they can't. So it makes it more difficult for them to deploy more chemical weapons.
But if that's true, then the very next day they were flying sorties.
Well, I'm assuming this is a whole air base, and it was just 59 Tomahawks. You've been on air bases. You're an Air Force vet. I'm a Marine Corps vet that was in the air wing, so you might as well have been an Air Force vet. Every single place I was an air base everywhere. Right. I was never on any other base than air bases. And 59 Tomahawks, and by the way, if you look at the bunkers from the videos and still shots of the base, you cannot destroy more than one plane per Tomahawk because the way the bunkers are.
Oh, yeah.
You would have to hit one, destroy that plane, and if you want to destroy the plane right next to it, you need a second bomb. Well, you and I both know there's no air bases with only 59 planes on it. There's hundreds and hundreds of planes.
Our small air base out in Aviano, Italy, had 2 squadrons of F-16s with a total of 43 F-16s.
My squadron alone had 20 planes, and there were 6 squadrons on our base.
And I'm sorry, I'm only talking about 2 of the dozens of squadrons that were there. The 2 that we were in charge of maintaining, the 555 and the 5 and 10, out of those 43 aircraft, there were still more aircraft everywhere.
Right.
And there were international, there were German planes, there were Spanish planes, there were Italian planes. Well, when I say Italian and Spanish planes, there are old F-18s. They're not,
Right. I thought it was funny when I was in Korea that they were flying F-4s, Phantoms.
Wow.
They look like Dodges because they were all rusted up.
I know, and I've seen it. I've seen a Phantom that would come to our base. It would be like a German general's private personal jet, or like antiquities. He's like, look, this is back in the days of throwback. It's like getting a throwback car, like a car that's 30, 40 years old. A classic.
It's a muscle plane.
So 59 Tomahawks.
Right. And we kind of got ahead of this story. We have to explain that this was Trump's response to
the children being gassed.
And it seems based on he came out with a press conference.
Right.
And he's pretty much saying that Assad dropped gas on civilians and we're not going to allow that to happen, so we're going to retaliate. And so the 59 Tomahawks were the response to Assad dropping the gas on the civilians. And so as a Trump supporter, and believe me, we worked hard and long hours and we learned a lot about Trump. I sort of met him. I got to shake his hand. I'm not sure. We didn't talk, but Brian and I met Ivanka.
All right.
And we hung out with her for like a half hour. And I could tell you that after all we've been through, after all we've learned, I'm going to go ahead and say that there's a good reason that he decided that he was going to respond as if Assad dropped the gas. Either A, he knew that they dropped the gas because of the intel that he would have.
He would have better intel than anybody.
Right, sure, certainly. Or he was responding this way because it ends up working out best for America. One or the other.
And I've got the 4D chess from Cernovich that posted online. And we get to all
and
that.
I have another source that says that Trump knew that it wasn't Assad, that Assad did not drop chemical weapons, but he responded this way because it was all part of the big 4D chess.
I know nothing about this.
But here's the thing I need everybody to realize. I need everybody to realize that all of these things are possible. And you can't just say, well, you know what? If this possibility is true, I don't think it makes Trump look good, so I'm going to automatically dismiss that. That is not cool. We started this program, Smith Radio, long before Trump he wasn't even a twinkle in the eye of the presidential run whatsoever. We started this in the middle of the Barack Obama communist takeover of America. That's why we started this.
We started this to do as therapy.
Yes.
As therapy, going down the wrong road over the hill and to never return.
Yeah.
We knew there was no turning back. We knew it.
Your Voice radio with Bill Mitchell, Mike Cernovich, who else? Now Wayne Dupree was around. Wayne Dupree's been doing this for like 10 years. But other than like Wayne Dupree and I don't know, a couple of others that I don't even know about, we've been doing this since long before Trump. A lot of these people that are out today got in because they liked the idea of a Trump presidency. We love the idea of a Trump presidency. But at the same time, we understand all the different possibilities out there, and we're not going to dismiss them until they've been debunked, okay? And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are claiming proof or claiming debunking based on things that aren't really proof, and they don't even realize it. And it's really, I'm not going to accept that. If I'm on Twitter with you and I push back on something, it's not because I don't agree with your beliefs. It's because I don't agree with your methodology of your argument. And that's what's going to happen to you with me. And don't take it personally. I'll give you an example. Some woman questioned my assertion.
Questioned my authority.
My assertion was, well, wait a minute. It was a question. My question was, how do we know whether or not Assad dropped bombs laced with gas or he dropped conventional bombs and hit a factory full of gas?
Oh, that's right. You told me about this woman.
Yeah.
I am so sorry for her.
Well, she came back very, very pointedly and she responded with a graphic. And I'm sure a lot of you guys listening, if not all, have heard about this or seen this graphic of the flight path of Assad's warplanes. And in the beginning of the flight path, is the air base that Trump bombed. And at the end of the flight path is the target where the children were killed with gas.
Catherine Herritage on Fox News also showed that we had the graph they tracked their aircraft movements.
Right.
So they also put on there and the graph of the aircraft movements of Assad. So they knew that Assad's aircraft had gone there. They knew how long they were there, and they knew how long it took them to get back. They tracked them all.
Yeah, and so there's like this dotted line that shows the entire flight path. Well, here's the problem. She presented that graphic as proof that it was Assad that dropped the gas.
So
she actually used the word proof, and she also spelled it in all caps.
Okay, so where Assad dropped the bombs on the map, is there like a skull and crossbones with smoke coming up, like green?
No, the flight path had little artist renditions of planes, and it had green bombs on them. I don't know.
That's proof.
Absolute proof. No, I can't tolerate, and Mike Cernovich says this too. I need critical thinkers. I don't need sheep. And
right.
I'm really sorry. I don't mean to call people sheep out there, but stop and think. Use your brain, use some critical thinking. And here's the thing. Regardless of whether or not it was Assad that dropped the gas or the gas was on the ground, I think what Trump did ultimately was the right choice. I understand too the isolationists out there, because I definitely lean towards isolationism. And here's more full disclosure. My initial reaction to this airstrike was very negative. And
I grimaced and slightly recoiled.
Yes, I think a lot of us did. And so I'm going to be honest with you. I stayed off of Twitter because I knew, based on what happened to PJW, Paul Joseph Watson, and some others, that I was going to cower down and not go out there and say, "Hey, y'all, this is wrong." And I'm glad I did. And here's why. I started to Well, I heard Bill Mitchell's argument for it because he had a debate with Paul Joseph Watson, and I agreed with everything that he said. And there were some other people that were totally for it, and like Brian Haseen's also on Your Voice, and we had some private arguments back and forth about it. Not heated arguments, but kind of a discussion. And I agreed with everything he said, and I agree with everything that Paul Joseph Watson said. And what I realized was, if you really stop and think critically, you realize that there's nothing wrong with agreeing with both sides. That may sound totally counterintuitive.
We're not pandering to Trump here by saying it's good or it's right, it's wrong, everybody's right.
And we're not condemning him.
No.
We're not condemning him.
Not only that, but I still think we don't have enough information. I honestly believe that there's some inside information that's not being released to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I talk to people who are not in the inner circle of Donald Trump, but right on the peripheral outer circle.
Right.
That know people that would get information that you wouldn't find anywhere else. I talk to those people. And guess what? After a long, long conversation with some of those people, there's still some unanswered questions. So it comes down to trust. When Assad says he didn't drop the bombs, well, we know that he used gas in the past, so his credibility is not that great.
Right.
Trump not only has been right about everything so far that I can't think of very many things.
Not one.
But not only that, but we truly believe on our side that he has a heart. And some people think, well, yeah, that heart got him in trouble. He sees somebody said Ivanka cried and people died. Yeah. Because they were saying that Ivanka coerced Trump into attacking.
I can't let my daughter cry over burnt children. No.
Right. And so some people are saying, well, the heart got in the way. But here's my thing. I think that his heart is what was employed when you look at the fact that when he retaliated with those 59 bombs, he went out of his way to make sure there were no casualties.
Right.
He told he gave them like an hour notice or something like that, and that would give them sufficient time for the human people.
And the Russian troops and everybody moved.
Yeah, they got out of the way. And after blowing stuff up, now there's some people that I won't divulge sources, but I'm not just making this up and saying that it's sourced.
Oh, so you have a
there's a source out there,
unknown source,
that said that this entire attack was coordinated
with Russia and Syria.
Yes. As now, I don't know about the gassing. That obviously would not have been part of the coordination.
No.
But I look at it this way. There's a look at the reaction to the left.
It's pretty shocking.
There are people.
Nancy Pelosi, John McCain, Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton actually called for bombings the day before.
Was it the day before or hours before?
The hours before Trump.
Like hours before.
Right. The Clinton was calling for bombing. I mean, it's just weird, very strange. And Rush's show Friday morning was, as soon as he opened up, if you guys listen, he's like, for those of you on the left on the ledge about ready to jump, I'm going to talk you down. And then the music started, and he interrupted the music. He's like, well, if you want to jump anyways, go ahead and jump.
Oh, my gosh. I'm so mad I missed that episode. I was doing something else.
But that was the whole thing. The strangeness of the slithering of the snakes came out from the swamp.
And they're praising him like he's the greatest president who ever lived, practically.
Politico's article. First article about what we were talking about before, about how a lot of Trump supporters, different factions of Trump supporters, hating on each other. And there's some infighting on social media about people wanting to ban Paul Watson or ban this.
Or they're blocking
them.
Yeah. People, if you're listening right now, don't block these people. If you want to unfollow them, that's cool. Yeah. I'm sure you'll be back eventually. But one thing I want to tell you, I've heard from people. They've told me. They said, I've worked too hard to get Trump elected and to get him the support that he needs to be president and to be a successful president. I personally sacrifice for this. I'm not going to let.
So did we.
Yeah, I know. We did. I'm not going to let somebody that has the power to make an impact, like a Paul Joseph Watson, destroy that for me. I'm done with them. I'm blocking them. And I'm going to encourage everybody else to block them. Okay, this is my argument to you. Listen and hear him out, and what you'll find out. And by the way, I listened to Mike Cernovich's cast this morning.
Okay.
This morning. He is not in any way, shape, or form against Trump at all. What he's doing with these articles that he's coming out with is, in his mind, trust me on this, I listened to it, listen to the whole thing, I did, he is trying to help Trump because he thinks that McMaster is undermining him. And he thinks that Petraeus is undermining him by advising McMaster and trying to do all these things that he feels is against the best interest of the Trump movement. He's not criticizing Trump. He's trying to do something about these bad actors that are operating on his behalf because they are high-level appointments or whatnot. And so here's the thing. All the stuff that Mike Cernovich has said in his cast last couple of days have not been debunked. So you may listen to him and say, I think he's way off the mark here. I think he's way off the mark. He's off the rails. And guess what? That's just an opinion. It really is. It's just an opinion right now. You might end up being right. Mike Cernovich might end up looking completely dumb here. He may. But he may not.
And Paul Watson came out, and when he started his show, he started his video, he said, all right, half of you hate me anyways.
Right.
So I'm going to just go on.
You know Niski? It's like Nick something. I follow him because I think he's really smart, and he does really good videos. It's on YouTube. The name of the channel is Niskey, Niskey. That's the name of his channel. I highly recommend subscribing to him and listen. He doesn't make very many videos. He doesn't make them very often, but he came out with one and said, guys, I'm just doing this video because a lot of people begged me to do this video, but I really don't want to do this video. You guys are going to, at least half of you guys are going to hate me. You're going to unsubscribe to me, unfollow me, all this stuff. But I'm against these strikes. And it was the shortest video he's ever done. It was like maybe 2 minutes, maybe even less than 2 minutes. Basically.
I wouldn't, if somebody comes out like that, I wouldn't ban them. I wouldn't, or block them. I most probably would not even unsubscribe. It takes a lot for me to unsubscribe from a person. Like it's personal to me to subscribe to them. But this Politico article by Ben Schreckendicker.
That's a mouthful.
Schreckendicker. His article that he wrote for Politico, and Politico is garbage.
It's like Schreckender.
Yeah, there you go.
Schreckender. I don't know.
And he says, the title of the article says, Trump's troll army isn't ready for war in Syria. The fractured elements of what was once called the alt-right were unified once more on Thursday night in condemning Donald Trump's airstrikes in Syria as a mistake, or as Milo said, fake and gay.
What, the attacks?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the InfoWars thing.
Okay.
So if you follow InfoWars, which I'd be shocked if you don't, because they've had a lot of real news this past 2 years.
I'll tell you what, man. I feel kind of bad that I made fun of them for so many years.
Oh, I was with you. we made so
much fun. It was him and George Norrie.
Yeah, well, what brought me around to liking him and believing what he's reporting is the real news was all the fake stuff that was coming out and the lies that were coming out during the Trump primary and then during the general election. And it was only InfoWars and those, and of course they got Paul Joseph Watson over there is working with them too. And I'm like, gosh, it seems like if you want to get what's really happening, you got to be listening to this particular circle of journalists.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the big ones was in InfoWars. You got your Breitbarts, your InfoWars, and then the individuals like your Mike Cernovich's. You got your Voice Radio with Bill Mitchell. And of course, Smith Radio is involved in there, obviously, if you listen to us. And they were a big part of that. So, yeah. But what his whole thing was is that the Syrian attack, Assad's attack, the gassing was a false flag.
Okay.
And they went far with it.
Now explain to the folks what a false flag means.
A false flag would be an event that is
Staged.
Staged would be a very good word to use. And they do the event to drum up, to move the people in a direction. So,
like paying Black Lives Matters to actually riot and kill cops.
paying them? No, that wouldn't be a false flag.
No.
A false flag would be like, wow. Okay. If the Syrian attack was a false flag,
that means Trump was in on the knowledge of that Syrian was going to do that, and then we were going to do this.
Okay, how about this? Let's say the CIA figured out, they're in their little board meeting, and they're like, you know what? We can't get advisors to get Trump to do what we want him to do. All right? He does his own thing, and he cannot be advised any other way. He doesn't take advice. We know that. However, if he makes decisions based on facts on the ground. So if we can manipulate the facts, we can manipulate his decisions. And one thing we know about Trump is he's got a soft spot in the heart for little kids.
Little chitlins.
Little chitlins. So
let's burn some up.
The CIA
oh, man.
launches an attack. This would be done by the CIA of sarin gas on a bunch of children. And before we do that, let's make sure we have the cameras in place, all the ground journalists. That way when this happens,
and nobody had potato cams there. They were HD,
right?
1080p or high. They were 4K cams that were just
the 360s.
Yes!
And I don't know. Well, yeah. So all that stuff is staged. All the propaganda is in the can, ready to go. They perform it. They actually conduct the operation.
Okay.
They blame Assad.
Right.
And then wait for Trump to make his decision.
And he made the decision that they wanted.
Now, I'm not saying that any of that's real. Actually, I don't believe that.
But that's what the false flag narrative that's being thrown around everywhere.
I'm giving you a hypothetical false flag. So the
Alex Jones calling it a false. Alex Jones is calling it a false flag.
Right, and I gotta disclose this to people. He hasn't been exactly debunked yet. And by the way, I've been getting a lot of reports from people. Please don't unfollow me or block me, but I'm getting a lot of reports from people that are saying I have a source in the intelligence community that said, "Don't tell anybody. This is just between you and me."
All right, I'm listening, man. I'm good.
But it is 100% confirmed amongst us, that amongst our community, the intelligence, that it was Assad that dropped the chemicals. I've gotten two different people with two different independent sources in the intelligence community that said it was definitely gas dropped by Assad. Okay, here's the problem. Israel intelligence said it was definitely dropped by Assad.
Right. And they're over there.
I'm a huge supporter of Netanyahu. I'm a huge supporter of Israel. But that's a biased source. Israel.
Unless Israel.
I'm not calling them liars. I'm just saying that I don't want that to be a primary source because there's going to be the anti-Semites and stuff like that. They're like, oh yeah, of course they would say that. And I just don't even want to go down that road.
Right.
I don't want to have the source be open to that kind of attack. And they would be. And you know what? The anti-Semites would kind of have a point. I mean, how do you combat their accusations of bias? You know? And my point of that is one person in the intelligence community, whatever branch it might be, it's like, yeah, well, what's their angle? You know?
I mean, their angle would definitely be Assad dropped sarin gas, because if he didn't, then that would be egg on their face, the intel community, for saying he did and he really didn't. And then go ahead and actions taken after that I mean, it would be pretty rough.
Right.
But you got to take it one step at a time, folks. One step at a time. False flag, that's really deep to go down that road. I'm not saying it's not impossible. Wag the dog happened for real, but I mean, false flag is possible.
Yeah,
okay.
And then there's wagging the dog. I guess we should explain that real quick. Wagging the dog
was a movie that came out during Bill Clinton's Monica Lewinsky.
Well, there's a very fine difference, very small, minute, nuanced difference between a false flag and wagging the dog.
Right.
Wagging the dog would be the use of a false flag in order to get a reaction from the I guess it'd be the public.
Right. So Bill Clinton wanted to get the heat off of him and Monica Lewinsky for doing the runaround.
So he launched missiles into Afghanistan.
Yeah, and then created a fake war.
There was the false flag of, hey, these guys did this. These guys performed terrorism or whatever it was. I don't even remember what the justification
whether they
was.
did or not, it's irrelevant. That's not the point.
Right.
The point is that we need to wag that dog and get everybody's attention to look over here.
Right.
And not over there.
So that's what wagging the dog is. It's a nuanced difference, but it's very close. They're very closely related. Almost always wagging the dog involves a false flag or maybe several false flags. So
right.
But just to let you guys know, I'm not on board with these kinds of conspiracy theories. I think that, it's not debunked, but sometimes you got to start using your vast wisdom, your experience in life, the fact that we had been in the military service and all this.
When there's something else called Occam's razor.
I don't know what that is.
Which is, for the most part, very simplified. The simplest answer is usually the right one.
Oh, right. Sometimes, I've heard this, I love this quote. Sometimes the shortest distance between A and B is actually a straight line. Because if you look at conspiracy theorists, they go in like squiggly all over the place.
I'm like, dude, where are you going?
Right. Sometimes the shortest distance between A and B is actually a straight line. Sometimes that actually is true.
So to cut through all of this, it's possible that the simplest answer is that what we're looking at may be real. Trump may have had some inside information. Obviously, he probably did. He made the decision to do what he did. There are other people that are putting out reports that are saying that that Russia had some knowledge or some parts of being involved with this in order to come back and to go renegotiate the deal and come back together with Trump, America, and Syria. There's also the notion that...
Let me throw the example out for that.
But there's the notion that Trump bombed Syria's chemical weapons that were supposed to have already been gone, according to Obama. They didn't have it. Obama made them get rid of it. Obama also told Putin to quit, hey, man, knock it off. Quit messing around with the election. So, Obama had stuff going on. But apparently, Susan Rice, Obama, completely wrong. Bashar Assad still had chemical weapons that Trump annihilated. Now, check this out. Politico, a different reporter in Politico, her name's Susan Glasser. She writes this piece, and the title of the piece is called President Not Obama.
Okay. How
Trump's Syria strikes got even some key Obama advisors cheering. Yeah, very shocking. Her article goes on to say, this week, Donald Trump found a foreign policy ? Or a foreign policy found him. President Trump bombed Syria, talked tough on North Korea, dumped his chief political ideologist, Steve Bannon, from his National Security Council, opened up a rift with Russia over the Middle East, and had summits with leaders of Egypt, Jordan, and China. Our admin, this is a quote from her source in the Democrat Party. Her source says, our administration never would have gotten this done in 48 hours. Never.
That's amazing.
Senior official of the Obama administration also said that this is a complete indictment of Obama. Trump, he's proved he's not Obama. Trump has proved he's not Obama, and that's useful to him, the other official said. Great move, brilliant. Finally, were some of the other comments that veteran foreign policy hands on both parties said on Friday. So let's look at the Obama administration. I'm telling you, it might be hard to believe, but I know that there are people in his administration that probably completely disagreed with him the entire time. And now that he's out of office, thank God we're done with that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what do you think about several different...
But would you think that that's possible, though? It's plausible that these former Obama senior officials claiming what Trump did was an indictment of Obama.
No, I think that this is crazy. Everything that I know about the left, at best, they would come out and say, well, at least Trump's finally doing something right, at best.
Right. And this is Politico is a left-leaning newspaper too.
Propaganda.
Yes.
Politico's propaganda. I'm telling you right now, and I'm not just saying this off the top of my head. I called around, and some people that know people in high places have told me and concur with this, that I think that the left was playing their last card in the deck with the Russia thing.
I love it. Tell me more. My ears are wide open.
So normally, let me just back a little bit. I'll take one step back. Normally, what we know of the left is that they're going to be against Trump, against Republicans, nonstop, no matter what. And they're going to go for the jugular at every point. And if you do something that they actually agree with, their gut reaction is to try to spin it so that it still makes you look bad. And if it's really good, they'll reluctantly kind of give you a passive-aggressive attaboy by saying, like, well, it's about time, right?
Yeah, or like the economy that's just absolutely booming right now.
Oh,
they won't even talk about it.
They won't even talk about it. Or yeah, so good point.
We'll get to the numbers later on in the end of the show.
Right.
But
good point. A lot of times they'll just ignore it. For them to come out and sing praises like this is definitely raises my eyebrow. My eyebrow is through the roof.
It's something not right here in Riverside.
So it turns out, when you stop and think about it, and I'm going to have to just say this is speculation, but I've had other people in pretty high places speculate along with this, same right along the same line as this. And that is that they were playing their last hand. And in a game of poker, if you ever play Texas Hold'em, no limit. If you're bluffing, and by the way, does anybody doubt that the Democrats were bluffing in their whole Russia hacked the election thing? Does anybody doubt that?
Their entire premise is one giant bluff.
And I'll take it one step further. Does anybody doubt that they knew they were bluffing? They knew they were bluffing.
The only people that didn't know they were bluffing
was that one lady, the doctor. Dude, she thought there was something there. She thought she had royal flush. She was like, oh yeah, when I flip over my hand, it's going to be a royal flush. You watch. And then she flips it over.
Although I'm holding a 2 and a 19.
19. She's got a joker. She's got a joker.
Yeah, I got the royal flush coming. No, sorry, not
she didn't have it. So they know they're bluffing. We knew they were bluffing. It was their last move. It was in poker. There's several rounds of betting. On the last round of betting, if you have nothing and you're in hurt city, you're in big trouble, and you can't fold. And let me complete the analogy. Folding means you go to jail. And that is the case, right?
Right.
Susan Rice, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, some of these people might be facing charges that
Eric Holder,
all these people.
Kathleen Sebelius.
A whole bunch of people could be facing jail time. So if your option is that if you fold, you go to jail, what's your last item? That is to push all in.
You gots to.
Yeah. So they did. And we saw that. We saw what it meant to push all in. We had debunked the Russia conspiracy. We totally debunked it. And what did they do? They said, you know what? We don't care. We don't care that you debunked it because our followers, our sheep are going to stick with us.
Yeah. And we're like that doctor. We're like, hey, you're looking for a royal flush, but you're holding Uno cards.
They don't even have the right cards.
You don't even have the right card. You're playing Uno.
They aren't even cards. They're dice. That's how detached from reality they are. They got 6 dice in their hand and they're saying, I got a royal flush.
I got a royal flush it is.
It's like that person at a football game. Did they get a home run? That's how bad they are. So we know they're bluffing. We call them. And that is okay. So they're thinking, all right, we got the Russian conspiracy theory down because our sheep are going to keep following us because we can hide the truth from them.
Right.
We can hide the truth from our sheep,
and they won't go looking for any other information. They'll stick with us and not look
because they believe that the real news, us and our circle, are fake news. Their sheep believe that because they were told that by CNN, Jake Tapper, Chris Cuomo, all those people. All right. They go all in. And guess what the big call and reveal is? Donald Trump attacking an ally of Russia.
Right.
That was the big, all right, I call you guys. Oh, by the way, you guys won't listen to all the debunked stories. I'll just attack Russia's ally, full blown.
Yeah.
And I'll make them mad. And they did. They came out and condemned it and all this stuff. So guess what the left has to do?
Russia sent a ragtag ship chugging along. It was powered by coal.
Right. It was steam or something. Yeah, it's one of them.
Right, trying to engage the American ships.
And of course, they reported it as if they were coming to attack us.
But the American ships were nowhere to be found. They've been long gone.
Oh, no. You know what I said on Twitter? Obviously, I was just joking. But I said, no, they're coming to find us to give us a high five. Yeah. Right. Definitely high five. So guess what? Let's keep going with this poker analogy. All right, they have to reveal their cards now. And everybody's going to know that it was a fake.
Right. Right, so what do you do?
All right, a lot of you guys aren't going to know this. I've been playing poker a long time with a lot of friends. I play at home games, whatnot. And if you got 2 friends with a lot of money in a pot.
It's like Carrie and I are sitting there and we both go all in. He goes all in and I go all in.
And you call, yeah.
Yeah.
And I stand to lose a lot of money. And the one guy flips over, maybe not. They may flip over. Brian might flip over, it doesn't matter. If I know I'm beat because I bluffed, I might look at Brian in the eye with the puppy dog with a little tear, like I know, like I'm about to be broken, and you're a good friend of mine. You're about to take it all. I could say, "You want to chop? You want to chop?" I've never done it myself, but I play with people that are friends with each other, and I've seen it happen several times. Obviously, this would not happen in a casino because a casino wouldn't allow it.
No,
it's against the rules.
Right.
But in a home game, I've seen it happen. And what, hey, you want to chop means is you just take the whole pot and I'll keep my last all-in bet.
Right. I went all in with $2,000. There's $3 or $4 in the pot.
Yeah, you get to keep the whole pot.
Keep the
pot. Let me keep my last bet.
Yeah, keep my last bet.
And that happens sometimes among friends. And I'm telling you right now, what the left is doing, showering Donald Trump with praise, is their last-ditch effort to avoid jail because they've been called. They've been called.
Right.
They bluffed. Their bluff got called. Their last play is to beg for a chop. And that chop is them showering him with praise. That's the only excuse, because if they would never do that if they didn't have to. They are forced to do this. This is a play on their part because they're going to jail. They know they're going to jail. And so this is their last attempt. And it's slim pickings. Really slim pickings.
I know nothing about this.
Very slim pickings. But they did it. And here's the thing. Some of you are wondering, well, what's Trump going to do? Is he going to let him stay out of jail? Insider information here, folks. Hearing it first here on Smith Radio.
But here's the thing, though. Just before you say the information, just an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
I say Trump has him by the nads and just controls it from here on out.
Okay, that's pretty much what I was going to say.
Okay.
Well, and I'll tell you my words. Trump could say, you know what? I called you. I want to see the cards. You're going to jail. Blah blah blah. And you lied about. You lied to everybody. All the sheep now know. The sheep are like, wait a minute. We've been told all this time that the Trump thing is real. You got somebody?
No.
Oh, okay. That the Trump-Russia connection's real.
Oh, it is real.
And now the sheep know because they're watching Trump attack a Russian ally and making the Kremlin mad and upset. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So what do? Do you just say, you know what, you're called, you're out of here, nobody's going to believe you liars anymore, you're going to jail, whatnot? Or do you hang that over their head?
Get them to play ball.
Hey, you want to play ball?
Well, I mean, look at these. They're snakes. They're dirty. They're rotten. They'll take money. Nancy Pelosi took I think it was like $200,000 from Assad back in the day.
Ooh, that's not good.
I mean, you know, all of them, all those politicians, they all have dirt on their hands, blood, some of them, all over the place. I mean,
so that I think that's what you're seeing here. What you're seeing here is, you know what the facts are. You can believe what you believe. I think that Trump played this absolutely masterfully because if you take all the positives that he gained from doing this, it's so overwhelming that you start to realize that it doesn't really matter what happened.
Right. Did you know?
You throw the facts out.
Before the Tomahawks were launched,
yeah,
he was sitting down with old boy from China.
Oh, huge China
down there in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah,
down there in Mar-a-Lago.
Which, by the way, somebody pointed out that FDR was with Joseph Stalin in a meeting when they dropped the nukes on Hiroshima.
No.
Yeah, so he pulled an FDR. Wow. By saying, "Hey, Mr. Z," or whatever whatever is however you pronounce it.
Ding dong dong.
Oh, you're such a racist.
I didn't know what they do.
I don't know. Pingyong.
Yeah, Pingyong.
Yeah,
how do they choose their names for their children?
Oh man.
All right, I stopped.
Wow. Oh, we're in so much trouble now.
Whew,
so, anyway.
I didn't finish the joke.
Yeah, let's not do that.
No, but yeah, I mean, look at it around the world. Everybody around the world saw what Trump did. China's with Trump,
and they all realized
Trump met with Egypt. Trump met with all these world leaders, and he's getting held up. Trump is getting held up at home for getting his agenda accomplished. So he's not being held up by the rest of the world. He's held up by the Democrats.
So let's back up here. We still have the whole entire Trump base is fracturing. Okay. And here, there's like this isolationist libertarian part, which there's a lot of people that were big players in the Trump movement and still are, that are heavily against this. And they're more of that libertarian / isolationist. Their idea of making America great again was building a wall, ending immigration or certainly illegal immigration, and having a very, very strict immigration policy so that only people that come in should come in and can take care of themselves and be productive members of American society. And also infrastructure, rebuild the crumbling infrastructure, rebuild jobs, bring the jobs home, bring the companies home, have manufacturing here, dig for coal, dig for the fracking, oil, all the above, oil pipeline. So that's what all these people were believing, making America great again. But in particular, getting into the nation building and the taking down of dictators in Middle East and getting involved in those skirmishes across the globe was a big part of what they believed we shouldn't be doing. Correct. And so that's where they're coming from. And the ones that are for the strike are kind of like, well, hey, part of making America great again and making America safe again is we have this refugee crisis and something needs to be done about that. But also those people who are big-time Trump supporters who are rabidly for the what Trump did, his reaction to missiles and going into Syria and even going further and having further operations in there and going so far as maybe even remove Assad and all that kind of stuff. Their whole thing is we have to remember that there was a campaign promise that was repeated over and over and over again by Donald Trump in the campaign trail, and that is that he vowed to destroy ISIS.
Right.
And that's something you can't, all you isolationists, I mean, did you hope he was kidding?
Or did you think he was going to do it later on down the road?
Right.
Just not so soon. Oh, that's too soon.
Too soon.
We don't have the wall yet.
And here's their argument. They're going to say, oh, yeah, well, if he really wanted to get rid of ISIS, why isn't he fighting with Assad and not against him? Because Assad's trying to defeat ISIS too. Well, that's where you start to get into the hairy details of the facts on the ground.
Assad's got chemical weapons. And Trump bombed them.
Well, Syria.
Syria's got chemical weapons.
Whether Assad, it sounds to me like based on the history of Assad, where they're saying that he did use chemical weapons on numerous occasions. There's also reports out there that the rebels have used gas on numerous occasions. Oh. So it sounds like they're just gassing each other there.
I've got a...
But the point is, while you're looking...
When you're ready, I've got a Russia Today story.
Oh, good.
So soundbite.
Yeah, so the point is that if it's true, this theory's floating around out there, if it's true that Assad and Russia and Trump coordinated this just to get involved in Syria, just to get involved, to get the ball rolling, and to eliminate the narrative of Russia hacking the election. Because I think everybody knew. I think Russia knew, and I think Trump knew that this was going to...
It wasn't going away.
Well, it wasn't going. It was going to adversely affect his power to do these kind of things.
Yes.
So let's do this thing where you attack my ally. This is pretty conspiratorial. But if you're in Trump's shoes, it's time to start thinking outside the box.
Well, Mike Cernovich.
Yeah.
4D chess.
Yeah. Oh, you're looking at the thing you came out with. Yeah. So Brian's reading an actual thing that he typed up on the early morning on the 7th. So it's several days old. Yeah. Well, go ahead.
4D chess bombed empty airfield. Called Russia first. Russia called Assad. No deaths. Showed strength to China and other countries. Fits the fake response required, as Scott Adams predicted in his analysis of the Hollywood attack in Syria. Counter to that 4D theory, supporters furious. Many high-profile supporters view Trump as another neocon globalist.
Mm-hmm.
ISIS in Bolton, big morale boost for them.
They were actually cheering it, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that their excitement's going to be misplaced.
GOP wants to impeach Trump without strong base. This can't happen?
Well, he wrote that right after the attacks.
Okay.
Like this was fresh off the attacks.
Keith Olbermann's still going on about
Keith, if it was up to Keith Olbermann, this would be ball would be rolling big time.
So the final analysis from Cernovich. He writes, my take.
This was on the 7th.
Right.
This was like 48 hours ago. This is old info, but go ahead.
Not only old info, but this is the reason why we didn't come out with info, Jimmy, on the spot.
Right.
You got to kind of digest some of this. But anyways, I digress.
He was trying to digest it. He was trying to swallow it whole.
Right. If you want to eat a tree, you eat it one piece at a time.
All right, go ahead.
So Trump, this is Mike Cernovich's take. Trump has a soft spot for children. The attack was orchestrated by ISIS with approval of deep state, perhaps their support and weapon supply. And by the by, Obama has supplied ISIS with weapons of all sorts, hundreds of millions of dollars of weapons. And Trump's better nature got the best of him.
Oh, that was the whole Ivanka cried, people died. Yeah, which, by the way,
I'm not buying it, man.
Nobody died in the retaliation. So, right. So that's a lie. Did you hear about Richard Spencer, the guy that did the salute, the Nazi salute?
Yeah, Richard Spencer, the
one that got sucker punched.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that was told that you can't come to the deplorable.
Oops.
Yeah, and that, for good reason. And to his credit, he graciously said, okay, all right, I won't come. But whatever. Anyway, he decided to have an anti-war demonstration in front of the White House. And
what is wrong with this guy?
Well, so he put out...
Is he an attention whore?
That's what it seems like. Somebody told me, somebody that probably a lot of you guys listening follow, that the problem with Richard Spencer is when he did that Nazi salute thing, he actually invited all the mainstream media there. He did. It wasn't like they found out about this and said, let's go. And it almost sounds like he was trying to destroy Trump.
Right.
By getting by telling the mainstream media, guys, you better be here because you're going to want footage of this. Trust me.
Oh, and they're like, oh, we trust you in being able to cause problems.
Yeah. Yeah. So he shows up. They do the Hail Trump, Hail Trump, Hail Trump, and people are doing the Nazi salutes.
Right.
And it was all captured by mainstream media. And a buddy of ours wasn't too happy about that, and rightfully so. So he's like, I'm done with him because he did that. So anyway, so he gets sucker punched. Anyway, he does an actual protest at the White House against the attacks in Syria. It was hashtag no more wars or no wars. We want peace. So when Antifa found out about this anti-war protest, they decided to protest, a counter-protest.
Sweet.
And I'm going to tell you right now, talk about a half-baked. The optics on this are not going to look good. All right. So you got Richard Spencer protesting the war. What do you think a counter-protest is going to look like? That you're for the war.
Oh, right.
So they show up and there's like, they're getting in each other's faces. This whole video is online. It's like a 45-minute video. Richard Spencer's got the bullhorn and he's bullhorning and chanting and calling out, and then Antifa comes around the corner, and then that's when the clashing. And there was I don't know if there was a fight or what, but there was at one point early on, Richard Spencer screams, "Get the police! You gotta arrest that guy!" And the camera never panned to what happened, so whatever. So the police did come just to create like a barrier between the two. They screamed at each other for 40 minutes. And it was hilarious because Richard Spencer was saying, this is an anti-war peace protest, and y'all are protesting us. So what are you, for war? You guys are pro-war?
Yeah, pro-war.
You guys are globalists. You guys, who paid you to come here? All this kind of stuff. So it made Antifa look like a bunch of complete morons.
Right.
And then the demonstration ended, and then there was a video later on of Spencer at an after party. But Antifa, what a bunch of morons. And they knew it too. There were people on Twitter making fun of Antifa for going and protesting against a peace protest. And they still went. They couldn't help themselves. They have no discipline whatsoever. So that's Antifa for you.
Okay, I got this thing, this clip from Russia today. It is related in a sense, but it gives information and a little bit of insight. It's a 2-minute clip. at the very beginning, it talks about what's going on in the Middle East, talks about what's going on in Libya. And then there's Momar Gaddafi's brother who speaks, and they have someone dubbed in speaking over him in English. And then they put a back-to-back clip of Obama, one from Obama in 2011 and then one from Obama in 2015. And this sums up the mess that Trump is having to deal with right now. I don't know if Russia Today is the mouthpiece of Putin. I don't know. I haven't really seen to where it's been propagandized, but I don't know. Let it be. I'd rather listen to them than CNN.
Definitely.
So here's Russia Today on the Middle East, Libya, weapons of mass destruction, sarin gas, and Obama and the big mess.
For now, Islamic State in Libya has apparently obtained the nerve agent sarin, which is classified as a weapon of mass destruction by the UN. Ahmed Gaddafi al-Dam, the cousin of the late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, said this in an exclusive interview to RT's sister channel, RT Arabic.
This is no secret. ISIL has managed to find some of the secret underground storage facilities still holding chemical weapons hidden in the desert. Unfortunately, they weren't properly guarded. The gas was trafficked to the northern part of the country and sold. There are 2 known cases of this chemical agent being stolen. I know this from my sources in Tripoli. In the first case, 7 drums of sarin were stolen, and in the second, I think it was 5. This gas has already been used. And during the recent clashes near the Al-Quds Mosque, they discovered a vehicle loaded with sarin. Unfortunately, those who had driven this vehicle into the city didn't realize the dangers of this nerve agent and how risky it was to bring it into an urban area, let alone ever use it. I don't want to spread panic, but that's the reality, and the world knows it very well.
Islamic State has attempted to use the political instability in Libya to increase their size and scope. Their key stronghold in the country is the coastal city of Sirte. In the past year, the number of ISIL terrorists there has increased from 200 to 5,000. They seized a military base in Sirte, not far from neighboring Europe, just on the other side of the Mediterranean. Islamic State chief Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi has reportedly fled to Sirte as well. And ISIL's rise comes amid the power vacuum in Libya that followed a Western-backed regime change, a rise the U.S. Didn't perhaps see coming.
Well, they may have seen it coming on purpose, but that's a little highbrow stuff. But here's Obama trying to defend himself.
Task that must be the work of all of us, supporting the people of Libya as they build a future that is free,
this is 2011,
democratic, and prosperous. The problem with Libya was the fact that
2015
there was a failure on the part of the entire international community, and I think that the United States has some accountability for not moving swiftly enough and underestimating the need to rebuild government there quickly.
Yikes.
How about that flashback? Are we now glad that he is gone?
He was such a terrible, terrible president. Isn't it amazing how much stuff is getting done? We're less than, 90 days?
Right.
Less than 90 days in this presidency. And you look back at Trump at Obama, and it's like, he did the Obamacare, and he did all kinds of executive orders, which a lot of us may not have even known the effects of. It was kind of like this invisible hand that was doing whatever. And what a do-nothing president.
Oh, absolutely, 100% do-nothing president.
Oh, my God.
But as you hear Russia Today, it's just amazing the information that's coming out of the Middle East from these people. I mean, whether Russia Today is shills for the Russian government or not, I don't care. There's information that's coming out that's saying that ISIS has captured sarin gas that was buried in the desert. That's plausible. I mean, that's believable. So if ISIL has this sarin gas, it makes it more likely that Syria bombing an area that they didn't know sarin gas was there, because even in this report, Muammar Gaddafi's cousin said that these guys traveling into the city, they didn't know how bad it was what they had in their truck.
I would believe that. Right.
Sure.
Right. That's very, very possible that you're just like, we have what in here? You know, that kind
Right.
of, like if they knew what it was, they might not even want to transport it. They'd get in a wreck.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey man, go around the corners a little
bit
slower.
slow.
A little bit slower.
Don't spill it, man. Don't spill it.
It's like that movie, The Rock, where they had the sarin gas and the little glass balls.
I love that movie.
I borrowed it from you. It's at my house. Just FYI.
Really?
Yeah.
Did I know you slipped it out?
It was a while ago, so at the time you did, but the fact that you don't know now doesn't surprise me because it was like a while ago.
It's on Netflix.
Oh, so I could keep it.
Well, no, because Netflix. There's something about Netflix. They fade in and out videos. But something I told you last night, and I want to bring this back up again. Yesterday, I watched again the movie called Saudi Arabia Uncovered, and I watched it with my daughter, my oldest daughter, 9. The daughter that's 7 fell asleep on it, which I can understand. I kind of dozed off too. But no, my daughter and I watched it. It's 55 minutes long. It's on Netflix. It completely exposes Saudi Arabia, who the country is, what the country is, and why am I talking about Saudi Arabia? I'll get to it. Saudi Arabia was happy about this airstrike. Okay. Saudi Arabia is the absolute epitome of Islam, Muslim, Sharia law. It is absolute 100% lockdown control. Nobody can go there on vacation. You just can't go there. So I was just looking at, hey, good to see you, DJT. Yeah, the biosuits. I don't know. Nobody was wearing biosuits.
Oh,
in the videos.
okay, yeah. So they had like these gas mask things on. We had to learn about NBC.
I'll get back to the story in a second, but no, this is important.
Yeah, so when I was in the Marines, it was right after the Gulf War, and so there was like a lot of talk about nuclear, biological, and chemical is what we had to learn. It's the NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical. And so we had to train based on possibility of being attacked by any of those things.
That's ironic that it's NBC.
That's what we're going to call them from now on. The
neurological, biological.
No,
nuclear, biological.
Right. Yeah. And so anyway, when we got to the sarin gas part, I mean, and you could look this up. You don't have to go through Marine Corps training to figure this out. You can just go Google it or something like that, even though we didn't have the Googles back then. Anyway, but I digress.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was back when you had to use the old AOL. I don't even know if AOL was around back then.
He's like, you had to use, in order to get on the internet, you got to buy the internet. Then you got to buy a subscription to AOL.
Right.
To get on.
Yeah. Anyway, that was back when everybody thought AOL was the internet. No, seriously.
I know.
Seriously. For all you youngster guys.
They did a great job.
Branding, baby. Anyway, sarin gas actually absorbs through the skin. So there were two things you could do when you're dealing in an environment with sarin gas. You had to be head to toe in a charcoal suit. And when I mean charcoal, I mean you put these long pants on made out of rubber, and on the inside has like this lining. And it feels like fabric until you pull them back off and your whole entire body's covered in black charcoal. And they fill the suit with that because the charcoal absorbs the gases that might come in. But it wasn't even enough. They kind of were like, well, this is the best we can do. I mean, you had this hood that went over your neck, everything, and it was like form-fitting around your mask, the gas mask, and you had gloves, and all this stuff had to be cinched off. And then on top of all of that, they were like, well, in a sarin gas environment, this is about the best you could do, but you're probably going to need this too. The EpiPen.
Oh, the needle.
Stab yourself with this thing.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, and it was so, let me tell you something, why gas warfare is so bad. So during the Gulf War, everybody knew it was a fact in their mind. They were 100% convinced on this, that as soon as we start getting into Iraq, we're going to be bombarded by all kinds of sarin gas attacks all the time, just constantly. And so what they would do would drill on how fast you can get your stuff on. And to be honest with you, if something hit nearby, you never have time to get that on in time. It would absorb through your skin, and you're dead. You'd start to have the symptoms of a sarin gas attack. And so it was almost a joke. And so what they would do is they would leave them in the NBC suits, the hazmat suits, all the time because they knew they wouldn't have enough time to put them on.
Right.
And there was sweat in them. These things didn't breathe. It was just a mess. But anyway, fast forward to this attack. You got these people with gas masks on, and their ears are exposed. And,
the guy was wearing shorts and a T-shirt.
Oh, yeah. That's not a sarin gas environment.
We got a situation. And one of the videos that they posted online had a guy, some dude being followed by a camera, and he points a light at the kid's arm, and he says, "I'm smelling his arm for chlorine because that's what it smells like, and I don't smell that."
Sarin's odorless, yeah.
And then he opens the kid's eyelid up, and he's putting the light in his. He's like, "Look, this is clear sign of sarin attack." Like, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he's saying, but that was propagated out there. Okay, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the country that supports ISIL, world domination for Islam, the caliphate. All of that emanates from Saudi Arabia, which is supported by pretty much the UN and the world. Britain supports them. We support them. So Carrie and I were talking last night about this, and remember you mentioned about General Petraeus. You said something about General Petraeus.
Yeah, that I would have never known about.
Maybe needing to get out, but what were you saying about it?
It was reported by Mike Cernovich this morning, or actually last night, that Petraeus he's kind of like the mentor of McMaster's.
Okay.
And McMaster's is the one that's trying to push for a big ground invasion into Syria.
Okay.
And we're not reporting stuff, and we're not speculating, and we're not putting our opinion in there. So let's just say this. This invasion that he's talking about might be a part of what is the campaign promise to completely eliminate ISIS, right?
Right.
That's possible. But Cernovich is just kind of pointing out that, we shouldn't be doing this at all. And he's operating off of the premise that that we're trying to remove Assad. And that's it.
Right. They weren't talking about regime change 2 weeks ago. Now they're talking about regime change.
Right. And that this is somehow a brainchild of Petraeus. And by the way, this is really disturbing. According to Mike Cernovich, McMaster's tried to get Susan Rice on the team. His team. How's
that even possible?
It's mind-blowing.
Okay, so what is this Petraeus thing? Well, if you watch the documentary, it was shot by a British crew, and it was from the vision of Britain when they were shooting this, uncovering Saudi Arabia. They snuck into the country, hidden video cameras, but throughout the whole documentary, they showed interviews with politicians, high-level people, and the sort, David Cameron. They showed him, and all these politicians kept saying, well, we know that not all of our allies are the best, people and whatnots. And they show Hillary Clinton with the Saudi prince and Obama with the Saudi prince. So it's this incestuous thing with Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. Lots of money flowing to Hillary with Saudi money, all this stuff. Well, they put up a shot of General Petraeus saying, yeah, Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I mean, they're good allies.
Yeah.
Talking them up. Okay. It's confirmed that Saudi Arabian citizens were the ones responsible for 9/11. They came from Saudi Arabia.
But also
Osama bin Laden was a very high, wealthy Saudi.
His family,
Yeah.
He come from a very wealthy Saudi family. But also, just recently, like in the past, 5-6 years, something came out that the Saudi Arabian government was involved in 9/11.
Okay.
because of one of the Saudi princes was like a backer in the operation. Yeah.
It might have been the same Saudi prince that's been paying Hillary Clinton hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yikes.
Okay. And that's just speculation, but
Yeah.
I'm telling you, she's involved with the Saudis, has always been. Okay. Where's my connect? What am I connecting here? I'm showing and trying to paint this picture that Saudi Arabia wants Syria gone because Saudi Arabia is in bed with ISIS, which is fighting Syria. Russia doesn't want ISIS and Islam and cutting off heads anymore. They want to stop that and the terrorism. Saudi Arabia's government beheads people in the streets.
Right.
They got an area called Chop Chop Square. It's 3 football fields big with drains everywhere all around this rock, cobblestone rock area called Chop Chop Square where they have daily chops of people's heads. So Saudi Arabia, I'm saying, is their agenda is to push through and take over the entire Middle East through the identity of ISIS. Because if it was them, we've talked about this.
They're the ones that are really pushing the caliphate,
Right.
too. I'm
And-
talking about ISIS. When you hear, that's their whole big thing.
Well,
they want the
ISIS
caliphate.
in Saudi Arabia is down with that 100%. Okay. Now, why would Saudi Arabia want ISIS to do this and not them themselves? We've talked about this. How do you declare war on a
On an idea.
Yeah. How do you declare war on ISIS when they have no country? They
Right.
are
The
not.
whole idea behind declaring war is that it's always against a country.
Right. So Saudi Arabia figures this out,
Interesting.
allows ISIS to flourish.
And spread and with no borders whatsoever.
No, not none. And when they go through Iraq, they pick up all of our American weaponries and Humvees because the Muslims living in Iraq are like, well, hey, I trust you better than I trust those Americans. Look at all the stuff they gave us.
Plus, I don't want to get a bullet to the back of the head.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, I'm a good Muslim. I believe in Allah. Yeah, don't kill me. So they get all that stuff. Then we know that Benghazi happened in Libya because they were running guns and Obama was running guns and all these things to ISIS. John McCain even said in a movie, in a clip, said that we are funding these people. These are the good people. And turns out, no, they were
the bad.
ISIS. He's even a picture. There's a picture of John McCain. There's a picture of Hillary Clinton all standing with the evil.
The worst dictators or the worst jihadis.
Right. The worst jihadis ever. So this whole movement, General Petraeus is involved in this.
That's not good.
He's down. He's cool with this.
According to Mike Cernovich, he is the puppet master of McMaster's. And he's the one that's in charge of deciding on what we're going to do in Syria and the tactics and everything.
Right.
Obviously, under the, I mean, Donald Trump is still the commander in chief. So ultimately, he's going to be the one to sign off on these kinds of decisions.
Right.
But it's problematic if you believe what Mike Cernovich is saying.
Right. And we've got Sam. If you're listening to us live on Sunday evenings, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, you can join the chat line, the message board, and you can message back and forth. And we've got Sam on the chat, one of our loyal listeners, been with us for years. We really appreciate it, Sam. And we got DJ T on the chat as always. So Sam writes, one big problem now, terrorism is spread to the point that nationalism and populism is rising. Now governments around the world have to get terrorism and under control or they'll lose their power. Well, Islam is cool with terrorism. I mean, that's what their book, the Quran, promotes.
It's jihad, yeah.
Jihadism. Right. So if these governments that are cool with terrorism, i.e. Sweden, apparently Sweden's okay with that. As long as
whoop, sorry about that. That was me.
Oh, okay.
I was just testing.
No, so Sweden apparently is not stopping it, and Sweden is being overtaken by ISIS and Islam. And And you heard that Russia Today, ISIS has taken over an air base on the edge of Europe.
That's not good.
Okay, hold on. Help me out, Carrie. How does a non-governmental entity, if you will, called ISIS, how do they take over an air base and occupy that
For more than 5 minutes or an hour?
How is that? You would have to have an ideology and a structure in place, like a military,
a command and control, command and control. Yeah,
absolutely. And this is something that we've said before. Islam is the government. The
Quran is the Constitution.
The Constitution. The Quran is the Constitution. So their government and their country can flow in anywhere they want, because they know the worst of the worst are the actual head of this entity. So the people who took over this air base, the ISIS guys, they know who the general, the leader is, because he's the worst of the worst.
Okay.
He's done. So I'm just saying, you've got this mobile country, you got this mobile ideology, and that's what all a country is an ideology.
Yeah, you can't define the borders. It's almost like good analogy if you're into science is a lot of people don't know this. Did you know that the atmosphere has no outer limits? It gets thinner and thinner and thinner all the way out hundreds of miles. So there's no border. There is no outside. There's not, I'm in the atmosphere. Oh, I'm out of the atmosphere. That's kind of like ISIS.
Yeah.
That there's no real end. It just gets thinner and thinner as it goes out.
Well, in their mind, the end, and this is the troubling part, this is something that everybody needs to wrap their head around. I'm saying that they're a free-flowing ideology that's taking over different cities, taking over different air bases. Well, their country, if you will, in their mind, is already drawn up. It is the world. It's the globe. It's the entire globe.
They want to take it all the way. They want to go all the way with it until there's nowhere else to go. And they want to get rid of anybody that's not an infidel.
Right. So if you are a free thinker and you like freedom and to be free and to live your life as you wish, that's going to be quickly stomped out by ISIS and terrorism. And that's all we're talking about right now is the situation in Syria with the airstrikes. Trump getting in the middle of it, like he did, probably better now sooner than later, he's going to have to define whose side he's on in the sense of Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Russia.
You know what I think will happen? Because Saudi Arabia is they're civilized, relatively speaking. Obviously, they're chopping heads off in the square. But outside of chopping infidels' heads off, they have extreme immigration control. They really don't let you in unless you're a Muslim.
Right. They've got a lot of control. Yeah.
I think that if we were to eliminate ISIS to the point of restructuring all the other countries, I think Saudi Arabia would just tell us, yeah, we're okay with that. Let it happen, and then just operate after that. And I think they would lay down. They're not going to fight anybody. They got too much good going on. They sell a lot of oil. They're one of the richest countries in the entire world because of it. And so I don't see them. I think their greed outweighs their need to spread a caliphate.
Wait until the price of oil makes natural gas and fracking so much more efficient. Then I think you have a really...
Or if they dry up. They might run out of oil.
That's possible.
If that happens, and that may not be for 50 to 100 years, but...
Oh, looks like we got a caller on the line. We got Sam Keels making a call in. How you doing, Sam?
Hey, guys. How are y'all doing?
Oh, fantastic. So we're talking about the airstrikes. We're talking about Syria. I know you've been listening the whole show. What's on your mind?
Well, guys, this has been a week of emotions, right?
Yes.
So what do you think? Here's my concern, and I tweeted it out this morning. So there's a few people that saw it and gave me a call. Actually, was upset about it.
Uh-oh, you upset some people?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here's the thing about it. I think that the independent media lost about 90% of their credibility, and I think that as a Trump base, I think 75% lost their credibility as a Trump supporter.
And
so what do you think about that, guys?
Well, I'm assuming I'm going to make some assumptions on what you said because that you just kind of made a general statement there. But I'm assuming that what you're referring to is I got to turn this up a little bit. I turned my volume down. Sorry about that. Okay, so they lost their credibility because of a position they took on the Syrian attack.
Because they took it so fast. Maybe even because they took it so quickly.
Well, here would be my thought was.
I don't know if it was so much the position. It was actually what was said.
Do you have any examples?
Well, without naming any names, like there's a debate going on. And one person says, "Oh, well, this airfield is blown up, and Christians are going to be killed now, and so on and so forth."
Right.
Like all of this drama, none of it's true.
Well, I think that he's worried about that. He might be worried about that, and his worry might be unfounded, and that may be the issue. I know Bill told him that it's small thinking. And I know that sounded like a big insult, but Paul Joseph Watson didn't take it that bad. So, I mean, everybody knows about that debate out there, so I don't think it's too bad to name their names. Everybody's seen it.
Well, it's pretty rough. I mean, I know Paul Joseph Watson said that there's a Christian town that air base was protecting. And I know that Syria doesn't seem to be active. Maybe so. But Syria doesn't seem to be attacking Christians, unlike ISIS and ISIL and Islam, in the sense that, I mean, I can clearly define who the enemy is in my mind. Mm-hmm. And I think the lesser of two evils in this situation would be Syria.
Well, I mean, what about if I told you guys that I had an extremely credible source that could tell you that certain Christians are protected and certain aren't?
Oh, we would believe that. we believe that. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, Christians are so oppressed there, and like I said, we already knew and reported on a lot of the Christians that live in the Middle East that have to pay to stay alive for the most part, and they're taxed differently, and it's pretty much a ransom just to keep from getting their heads chopped off, I guess. And so, yeah, we know all that stuff's going on. Paul's the only one that pointed out that there's a Christian city that's being protected by that base. And he didn't know at the time. He was just operating off of what he's been reported, what has been reported to him. But he believed.
Okay, so whoa. So that's the problem right there. So you preach about or you take a position, not preach, but you take a position about fake media.
Yeah, it was reported to him, just for our listeners, I'll finish that one, which is that he believed that the air base was just destroyed, just completely obliterated to where they would not have the ability to protect whatever it is that they were protecting. And it turns out they were flying sorties off of it the next day. The actual runways were not damaged enough to stop flights even the very next day. There were still planes left that weren't destroyed that flew off the next day. So whatever protection they were able to provide before was probably able to be done even after Trump launched those missiles. So, but he didn't know that at the time. Fake media, I guess is what you would call it, was reporting that it was destroyed.
And when that's what you say, in my opinion, or you say, my assumption is that base is destroyed, but you don't come out and state a fact, right?
I mean, he's just trying to make an argument based on the facts that were out there at the time. Turns out the fact was not very accurate.
He kind of, and I'm
so
also going to
so all the way around, so we can agree that. And what's so funny about it is while he's talking, I'm watching this live, right?
Yeah.
And I'm also looking at the TV screen, watching these planes fly out of that same base.
Oh, so you were getting
like,
real time. You were getting real time information
On C-SPAN,
like,
nonetheless.
Dude, but I'm not mad at Paul. I don't want y'all to misunderstand. You know, he's reporting what he thinks is factual, and I understand that.
Right.
And he's
I'm just disappointed, really.
Right, and he's done he's done such an invaluable job over the past 2 years. It's been incredible. I'm going to give him a pass on this one. I really am.
Well, plus he pretty much almost damn near apologized for kind of having a rash emotional outburst right after it happened.
He was pretty emotional.
He walked it back pretty far, even though he did try to stand that ground in the debate.
I'm done with Trump.
Right.
I'm off the Trump train.
Yeah, he went all the way.
Yeah.
It was one of those.
Stay off, dude.
Yeah, but I'm glad that he came back and he pretty much for the most part said, yeah, what I was saying was kind of wrong. You know, I don't want. I'm putting words in his mouth, but.
So here's my thing. So I put that statement out there, right? Because there's quite a few of them that were out there that had emotional reactions. We'll put it to you like that. So then I'm watching the story. I think it was one of the secretaries for economics was actually doing an interview, and he was talking about, you know, how the Republicans are stalling everything. Congress is stalling everything. Okay? So I tweeted out. I said, hey, you know, I wish that these people would attack Congress as hard as they attack Trump.
Well, and I saw that tweet. My initial gut reaction was who's really attacking Trump? I mean, I know initially Paul Joseph Watson did, but all the big players, the ones that are actually making a difference by putting out news, if you will, and have a big following, they may very, very strongly agree with the strikes and they all have their own reasons or whatever. But none of them that I saw, except for that initial reaction by Paul Joseph Watson, said that they're done with Trump or that they're attacking him like you said. I think it's and even Cernovich today. I don't know if you saw his cast. He made sure he pointed out, and I'm glad he did. I felt it before he said it, but he said it anyway. And that is that. Look, I'm not attacking Trump at all. I support him. I'm attacking these people that I believe, and he may be wrong. He may actually be incorrect on this belief, but he believes is undermining Trump and the Trump movement, these people that are in his inner circle, in the cabinet and whatnot, and he feels like it's his job to get the word out to everybody that these people need to be gotten rid of. They need to be opposed. Trump needs to realize that these guys don't have his best interest at heart. So you got people like Mike Cernovich, who I think people are incorrectly, and I'm not accusing you of this, Sam, but there are definitely people out there who are saying, I'm done with Cernovich. I unfollowed him. I blocked him and all that. And, is that 610?
Yeah, that's 610.
Sam, we'll talk later. I got Jack calling. Jack Posobiec's coming on.
Hey, you're listening to Smith Radio with Brian Smith and Kerry Smith, and is this Jack?
This is Jack Posobiec with Rebel Media here in Washington, D.C.
Oh, you're calling out of Washington. All right. Well, this morning, was it this morning or yesterday that you came out with the Seth Rich report?
It was just yesterday morning.
Awesome. Tell everybody what's going on with Seth Rich and kind of back it up to where, like, I guess the event that happened that led to his death. You got to tell people who this guy is and get them up to speed.
Well, yeah, let me give people the backstory before I do the breaking. But the backstory is way back in July 1st, before the DNC, before the RNC, before Trump even really officially was the nominee. There was this Democrat staffer by the name of Seth Rich who was murdered here in Washington, D.C. And at the time, people weren't really sure how to take it. They called it a robbery, a mugging that went wrong. 2 shots in the back and in the back alley, 3 a.m., kind of near a bar. And comes out later that this guy is an IT staffer.
Okay.
Now, a few weeks after that, the DNC starts, and on the first day of the DNC, we all remember the DNC leaks come out from WikiLeaks, this massive leak of emails that leads to the resignation of the DNC chairwoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the revelations that Bernie Sanders had the nomination stolen from him by Hillary Clinton, who cheated in the primaries. Massive, massive stuff. And to the point where now the entire Russia-gate, the entire claim that Russia hacked the DNC all rests on these DNC emails.
Did they come up with and invent the Russiagate to cover their trails on the murder of Seth Rich, or is that too far-fetched?
That is the theory that a lot of people have been working with. To say that, because when that thing first came out, I've done a lot of work in the IT field and cybersecurity, and I'm telling you, when those emails came out, that didn't look like a hack. That looked like a leak. Because hacks, you get partial emails. This was a trove, an archive of hundreds of thousands of emails.
Well, and that was the big problem that
worked there,
right? And that was the biggest problem of getting all that information out, because it was full and complete. And
it was all of it. It was like all of it.
Yeah, a lot of it is just drivel and rubbish, and they had to sort through it all.
So he was the DNC.
Yeah, so you're looking at something where that was included for credibility purposes, to make sure that people could use the data that was in these seemingly innocuous emails to verify the stuff that was in the more bombshell emails.
So kind of like a context. You can get the context of the email thread.
Yeah, you can see that this stuff is legit. There's phone numbers. There's stuff that people wouldn't never necessarily want out.
Yeah, and no
one has ever to this point denied it.
Right, and nobody's denying that this was real. So, tell us about Guccifer. This is kind of a mysterious guy who is on Twitter, and I think he may have even gone through several different Twitter accounts. I don't know if he's been banned and came back on, or
he's been suspended and unsuspended a couple of times.
Okay. What's with this mysterious guy, and how do you know him, or do you know about him?
I know about him. So Guccifer, the story I was told is that he claims that he hacked the DNC on his own, that he phished a couple passwords, which is using social media exploitation or social networking to, basically guess somebody's password.
Right.
But what it looks like, and then it looks like he found these emails somewhere. And the story I was told was that Guccifer 2 didn't actually hack the DNC. He found these emails in an archive somewhere on the deep web.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And so what people are now kind of piecing together is it possible that Seth Rich, a Democrat IT staffer, found out that the DNC was running all this essentially corruption, these stealing of stuff from Bernie. There was a big split between Bernie and Hillary during the primary.
Right.
So he finds out about it. There's talk that he went to go talk to the FBI.
Oh, wow.
To let them know what was going on. But he may have organized this archive out there of the emails just as a way to stash it in case something happened to him.
Okay, so did the you'll have to give me a timeline. Is the DNC leaks come out after he was killed, or was that before?
It was after.
So DNC leaks came out after he was murdered.
August. So he's murdered in July. They come out in August.
Oh, my gosh.
Right. So and if you look online, though, if you pull up Seth Rich and you look at his pictures online, and I'm not trying to parse left and right, but he seems to be a very patriotic, a lot of American flags, real.
It's probably 4th of July type picture that was taken of him.
Yeah, but it just seems like an all-around kind of good guy that if in this situation to see this kind of thing might be like, oh man.
Especially if he
was.
was.
It strikes me that he was more of an IT staffer that they hired rather than a political appointee.
Right. That's where I was getting with that.
Now, why do you think they asked him to come on to the Hillary campaign? That was done right before, a couple days before he was murdered too, right?
Yeah, and that was actually something that nobody knew about until much after in this situation. The police didn't say anything about it. There's an interview conducted with his father on local TV in their hometown, where the father said, well, oh yeah, actually just 4 days ago he started working for the Hillary campaign. And suddenly everybody watching this was like, whoa, wait a minute. Nobody said that. And this is several weeks after the death.
Wow. So nobody even knew that he was asked to come on.
Key point that I have to mention about his death. So the police called it a murder, robbery, mugging. His wallet was on him.
You're right.
His wallet was found on his body.
Right. He had a watch, too, and that was still on him, and his ID.
Yeah,
and
very expensive watch.
And a phone. He had his phone on him, too.
Right.
Very suspicious death.
So
it was like 4 in the morning.
All the hallmarks of more of a coordinated, targeted killing rather than a mugging.
I would say amateur hour, because if I was hired to kill somebody, I'd at least take the wallet to at least cover my tracks. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the guy that killed Vince Foster, I mean, he on purposely broke the gun to make it look like it couldn't.
Yeah. Did you hear about that, Jack?
That's a joke.
Did Jack?
I'm pretty familiar with the Vince Foster Scott.
Yeah, it was Gary Byrne wrote in his book Crisis of Character that his friends at the FBI told him that the gun was inoperable. They had to repair the gun in order to do forensics.
Wow.
To see if that was the gun to refire another bullet from that gun.
Right.
To look at the shell, the casing, then match it up.
Yeah, they had to repair the gun to make that happen. And so Gary, very, very not cynical, was kind of like, well, it's possible that it broke when he fired it to kill himself. That he was very, very, he's not real conspiratorial, so he kind of threw out the possibilities out there.
So we get silly with it here, though.
Right. We love to entertain the conspiracy theories. So I'm trying to.
I haven't put out the breaking part yet.
Oh yeah. Well, I want to make sure we get this timeline right. So you're saying that Seth Rich he was a DNC IT staffer. He was asked to come and work for the Hillary campaign 4 days before, and they said, was it the day that he was supposed to testify to the FBI that he was killed?
That's the rumor. I haven't seen anything officially verifying that, but that's the rumor.
Okay, and then you got this Guccifer guy who's claiming that he had Seth Rich as his source for his information.
So that's the breaking part.
Okay.
The breaking part is apparently a few days after the DNC emails come out from WikiLeaks, Guccifer is DMing it up, and Guccifer's DMs have been used in national investigations already. Adam Schiff, the Democrat on the Intel Committee, was talking about Guccifer's DMs with Roger Stone.
Wow.
Former
Yes.
Trump chairman,
right,
or campaign manager, and talking about, hey, can you retweet some of my stuff, and I really like you, and all this.
Okay.
So his DMs have been used as evidence already by the Democrats in this Russia investigation. So suddenly there's another DM that's just released yesterday by WikiLeaks of Guccifer DMing with a actress and apparently sometimes nude model.
Hey, I won't hold it against her. I won't hold it against her.
Exactly. saying, yeah, it was me. I got all the emails out. And she's, oh my goodness, you have to be safe and all this. And you can tell what he's trying to do.
Right. And there was somebody that was questioning, and I was watching your cast, and somebody questioned whether or not that was the actual Seth Rich. But it says right in the DM that he was killed.
Right, in the DM.
Yeah,
It says, my source was killed,
yeah.
and she said, who was it? And he said it was a whistleblower named Seth.
Right. I mean, it doesn't take a freaking rocket scientist.
I've got all kinds of Seths that
were
were whistleblowers.
And they were killed.
And they knew Hillary. I've got at least 5 on Redot. Well, I had them on Redot.
Yeah. We go in like flowers.
Yeah, and that's what people say. How many Seths? And I'm like, guys, come on. Like, let's Occam's razor a little bit here, please.
Thank you. I just earlier referenced Occam's razor.
Oh, there you go.
No, absolutely.
This is going to be the Occam's razor show, I guess. But so, wow. So, how did you get this information?
So WikiLeaks posted it themselves about the DMs.
And then you went live
the
with
actress, basically released it to WikiLeaks. She had been sitting on it. And then since then, her account has gone completely private.
Oh, no. I actually tried to DM her to try to see if I can get an interview with her. And she's probably getting blown up by everybody. So I didn't get a response back. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. So here's the big question. Here's a big one. So Guccifer obviously had his eye on her. I read some other DMs. He was getting pretty intimate with some of these DMs.
Well, did you see her?
Yeah, I mean she's a model, so yeah, obviously. So you're thinking he's like just trying to impress her? Like, why would he divulge that kind of information to her?
Because if you look at the timeline, this was before he really started pushing the notion that he hacked the DNC.
Okay.
And it was more like, I think it was more like, hey, sort of, he was trying to impress her. He was trying to impress her, talking about how cloak and dagger he was getting into. But then I think he realized, wait a minute, they actually are killing people. Maybe I should back up a minute. But one piece that this actually covers is, if you remember, during the investigation of the DNC hack, it was reported that the FBI, and Comey mentioned this in the testimony as well, that the FBI never actually examined the DNC servers.
Oh. That's correct. And the DNC blocked them at times from getting in.
They blocked them and went to this group called, this Soros group called CrowdStrike, who nobody knows about, and is tied to all these weird Ukrainian ties. Meanwhile, and I remember saying, like, wait a minute, they denied the FBI access. Excuse me, if the FBI is knocking at your door, I don't usually think they ask your permission to come in, you know?
Right. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't push for that more. But if there's that kind of corruption, where they say, hey, you guys really shouldn't be looking at
mean,
this.
if you got the deep state involved.
That there's no evidence of hacking because it wasn't a hack, it was a leak by Seth Rich.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, they don't want the FBI to verify that it wasn't hacked. That's pretty much what it boils
because
down to.
If they did verify that it was a leak and not a hack, then the CIA couldn't have gotten involved.
Did the CIA
exactly?
So the CIA gets involved.
It changes the whole narrative.
Now it's Russia.
The whole thing goes away.
Right.
Yeah, and they could just say it's Russia and not have to offer up any proof or anything.
Say it's
like
Russia with Trump and destroy your opponent.
So this pretty much proves, the bottom line is this absolutely proves that the Russian story was fake. There's one other thing. There's somebody pointing out that if he's just trying to impress this woman, it could be me. I could be Guccifer, and I'm trying to impress this woman. He could just say that his source was Seth and say that it was the guy that got killed. And that's not really proof, right?
It's definitely not proof in that sense, but it definitely bears further investigation.
Yeah, I would say so.
And that, I think, is why WikiLeaks has offered over $130,000 for information into the death of Seth Rich. And then as I was doing my Periscope, someone reached out to me, an anonymous source, but someone that has means, and said, if this happens, I will drop another $100,000 on top of WikiLeaks.
Wow!
To bring it up to almost $250,000.
I hope it comes out. I hope the truth comes out. I mean, it's so obvious that this was foul play and not just some botched robbery. I mean, it's ridiculous. Just all the little pieces. You can kind of paint the picture in your head just by it just doesn't look right. It's got to be foul play, right?
It doesn't pass a smell test.
Right, and they thought, they could sweep it under the rug in D.C. There's so many murders in D.C. There's shootings. It happens quite a bit. A lot of people don't. One angle of it was that the D.C. police chief at the time, she has now been, not too long after that, a couple months after that, was given this amazing job, head of all security operations for the NFL.
What?
The NFL? Okay.
Wow.
So we're talking multi-million-dollar contract.
Right.
Huge, amazing thing. And she had actually, up until that point, had actually kind of been sort of a 50-50 performance, a very embattled during her time in D.C., and people were really questioning why someone like that would be given this huge high-profile position.
Wow, so even the NFL upper offices are somehow inside this corruption and all that kind of stuff. That's yikes, or at least that's the way it looks. Unbelievable. So yeah, I mean,
it's one of those things where you start putting the pieces together, and it's hard to say. It's so hard to say what fits and what doesn't. But when you look at the timeline, when you definitely look at the timeline, and you look at the fact that these are completely leaked emails and did irreparable damage to Hillary Clinton,
right? That
you really have to go back and say, what would she do to prevent these emails from coming out?
Did you see the there was a John Podesta email, and it was part of the WikiLeaks or whatever, that said that we need to, or I'm all for making an example out of leakers. Did you see that one?
I remember that one at the time. That was one of the more ones that stood out, as opposed to, everyone kind of focuses on the weird code word type things that are going on, but that one seemed pretty noteworthy to me.
Yeah, that somebody actually, I never saw it, but we were talking about Seth Rich on Twitter, and somebody posted an actual screenshot of that email, and I was just outraged. I started tweeting out with John Podesta's Twitter handle, because I'm crazy, I don't care. Right. Saying you're going down. Yeah. Well, by going down, I mean going to jail, or I think
because if you say going down on him, he might,
Oh my gosh. Oh. Yeah. So, no, but I said something to the effect of your days are numbered, and justice for Seth Rich, and I'll tell you what, that's just if I'm a friend of his or a family member. Gosh, I'd be spending the rest of my life trying to get to the bottom of it, because it does look so bad. It looks so much like a hired hit by a political operative of some sort, or a politician, and it's really sad.
We know, and if you go back into Roger Stone's books, into the Clintons, which I know you guys know very well, the Clintons have used hit squads operating out of Arkansas, former law enforcement, for people that were close to them, trustworthy to them, and actually David Brock, of all people.
Why does that sound so familiar?
Original book.
Oh, right.
David Brock, the head of Media Matters.
Right.
But before he went total Democrat, former boyfriend of James Alefantis, Comet Pizza, he wrote the book on the what was it called? The seduction of Hillary Rodham.
Okay.
And that was where the Troopergate scandal was broken.
Oh, that was back in Arkansas. Yeah.
Right. That was David Brock before. I think essentially what happened was they said, "Hey, you're good. We're going to co-opt you."
Oh, so he took the money. He's like, "All right, I'm in. I'll play ball."
Right, and then he did this big article, "Confessions of a Conservative Hitman," and all this stuff.
Yikes!
Jeez. Hey, I just want to point out real quick, Jack, that you might be a little bit off on your DC crime. Apparently, DC crime is down 5% in total crime, from 37,000 in 2015 to 35,000 in 2016. And violent.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, violent crime is down 10% from 6,300 to 5,700 in 2016. Just want to let the folks listening know that DC is on a surge of peace.
Doesn't sound like it.
Gosh.
Wow. Yikes.
About as peaceful as Raqqa in Damascus right now.
Right. That's from the Metropolitan Police Department, DC.gov.
Oh man.
So does it sound like somebody with those numbers who's who the NFL would look to head up their security operation?
That's insane. No.
Yes, that is crazy. That's crazy. I'm just wondering who over at the NFL was compromised that had to agree to that. That's really crazy.
I don't know. I mean, the NFL's gotten so liberal in the last, 10, 15 years, gotten real liberal.
It's turned into flag football almost.
Yeah. Well, you got the news media, you got ESPN that's absolutely hardcore liberal. I'm sure that that there are plenty of operatives in the NFL.
Awesome. Well, is that
you remember the flag thing during the NFL? I mean, it took a huge hit with people saying this looks public, this looks political at this point.
Right. I could totally. I mean, it does, because that kind of position, you would think you would need more credentials than that. I would think.
Yeah, you need something private, something where you were managing multiple properties at a time. It didn't quite fit. It was like just an odd,
almost like nepotism was going on.
An odd shift from, you're doing this to now you're doing what?
Yeah.
And you're making how much more?
Huge promotion.
Wow.
Wow.
It sounds like you hit the lottery on that one. When in reality, she swept this under the rug.
Are you going to push for this to keep going as far as getting somebody to investigate it? Do you have anything in the works on that Seth Rich front?
I absolutely am. I've got people that are working in D.C. right now, but they obviously, as you can imagine, are definitely poking around in places that are not good. So they have to maintain their security or their anonymity.
Man. Wow.
But we had people going back in Arkansas on different things during the campaign, and I mean, you pick up tails the minute you get in town in Little Rock at this point.
Yeah, I heard that they had that place so corrupted it was unbelievable. I know that.
Well, there's one story about cocaine running from South America into Arkansas.
Yeah, and getting back to Gary Byrne. Gary Byrne was the Secret Service agent during George H.W. Bush. And, excuse me, I think he was on a detail protecting Governor Bill Clinton at the time. And he was talking to some of the locals, and they said, he's going to win. And they were like, what do you mean? And he said, no, you don't know how corrupt these people are. There is no way that they're not going to win. These are people from Arkansas, from Little Rock, that were saying this. And so even Gary Byrne was like, wow, you could feel the corruption even back then. So.
Yeah, they ran their entire operation like a mafia, like a crime family. What the Clinton Foundation became, you in the past you could say Rose Law Firm, you could say Whitewater. This type of stuff has been part and parcel of the Clintons from day one.
Right. Do you, I guess switching gears, do you have any breaking news about the Syrian crisis?
Well, really, it seems like it's turning back into what is going on inside the national security team in the Trump White House, and who exactly is leading the charge there, with P.T. McFarland's firing this morning, and then the report from Cernovich Media last night that
that was a big bombshell.
The new national security advisor is looking at a U.S. invasion force of Syria.
Yeah, McMaster's and the Cernovich report that Petraeus might be involved in influencing him, I guess.
That's right. He and Petraeus are go way back. It was sort of like Flynn and McChrystal were one side, and then McMaster's and Petraeus came from more of that establishment side, and that's why Petraeus became an advisor to Hillary Clinton during the campaign.
Oh yeah, well not only that, but Petraeus was 100% down with Saudi Arabia, being allies and being friends with them. So I'm sure he either knew or was probably involved in the money that was being laundered from Saudi Arabia to the Clinton Foundation. This is my thing. Petraeus, Clinton, Saudi Arabia, ISIS, and that's the sides that they're on is ISIS, and ISIS is against Syria. So it's like if we get rid of Syria, then we make Saudi Arabia happy, and ISIS, we'll deal with that later.
Right.
Does that make sense? Do you see where that whole picture is?
Well, if you break it down, it's pretty much all Middle Eastern politics, and I picked this up during my time in the military, working in foreign affairs, is you can boil it down to Saudi Arabia versus Iran.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, and so Syria is currently a client state of Iran.
Right.
And Saudi Arabia would like that to get off their border.
Correct.
Or at least get off the closeness to their border. Jordan is a little bit more neutral, kind of like Iraq was. But you can see the real hot conflict right now in Yemen between the Iranian-supported Houthis and the current government, which was Saudi-supported.
Right. No, I can see that definitely. So I mentioned earlier that it seems like Trump is going to have to pick a side, and it looks like he's picking the side of Saudi Arabia versus the side of Russia and Syria.
At this point, it does seem like that. As far as things are shaking out, which is a big switch from the campaign rhetoric of Donald Trump and the 2013 tweets that a lot of people are bringing back up, saying, don't get involved in Syria. Syria can be stable. Don't worry about it. Just join up with Russia and beat ISIS.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, we're hearing Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, and Nikki Haley talking about regime change in Syria.
Oh, yeah, when Nikki Haley
Donald Trump ran on a campaign of do not get involved in foreign wars like this.
Right. Nikki Haley there at the UN on Thursday or Friday, and wow, she gave them an earful, blasted them, and pretty much sounded like, yeah, it is regime change time. Which again, what in the Sam Hill are we doing? America. We're America. We're on the other side of the pond. What are we doing in the Middle East with regime change?
Yeah, it seems like you have to make a long case, and it can be made. It can be made, but you have to make a long case to get to regime change, making America great again.
How's Libya? How's Libya doing? How's that working out?
Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan. It's all big failure. I mean, it's
Ukraine. You're basically going down John McCain's greatest hits list.
Yeah, pretty much. And why is he so excited about this?
Yeah,
you may not have heard earlier in the program. We were pointing out that the Democrats and some of the leaders around the world, and your rhinos, are not just accepting and supportive of Donald Trump. They're enthusiastically cheerleading for this. And it just doesn't seem like that should be right. And so my theory was, and I kind of borrowed this from some of the people I was talking to earlier in the day, that the conclusion I kind of came up with, and obviously it's just speculation, is that that they've played their last hand. Donald Trump called their bluff on the fake Russia hacking thing, and now, in order to avoid jail, Democrats and rhinos that were pushing this fake narrative now have to shower him with praise. What do you think about that theory?
No, I actually agree with you on that, and that's one of the things why not too long after the Syria strikes, I said, well, there's a 100% chance Neil Gorsuch gets confirmed now.
Oh, I did see that. I saw that tweet.
Trump tweeted out Monday, 11 o'clock, confirmation.
Yeah, I remember that tweet. Yeah, that
right,
pretty much sums it up.
Because he knew that he had them by the short ones, the short hairs.
Right.
After that, because you guys are done.
Yeah, and it's weird. It seems like
it remains to be seen. It really remains to be seen, because I know that that sort of there's people are split into two camps right now. One saying that this is a limited strike and this is all it's going to be, but there's another group of people, very vocal group, huge Trump supporters involved in it, saying that no, we're seeing a lot of indication that there's more involved here.
Yeah,
going down that regime change road.
Totally. This is what I was thinking. Every single thing that came out of Bill Mitchell's mouth in the debate with Paul Joseph Watson, I was like, hey, I agree with everything that both sides are saying. I agree with everything that Bill's saying. However, that's with what was actually done. When you start to creep down that road of, well, we're going to do more now in Syria, that's where I start to deviate. Like, you
got John Bolton.
And I think either of them were they make great points. It was an awesome debate to see, and I love the fact that when our side has differences, we talk about it. We don't put on the vagina hats and burn down the local Starbucks.
Well, I did yesterday, but not to tell anybody. No, John Bolton was on Fox News just a couple of days ago, and he said, no, this is the start.
Gosh.
This is it takes 10,000 steps to travel a journey, and this is step number 1.
Oh no.
No, he was praising
Right,
it.
I think you're seeing, just as usual, the internal division, the internal struggle being played out on the Sunday morning shows.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting. I think that I think we're in agreement on a lot of stuff there, and I think that it kind of boils down to who does Trump give into now as far as what the next steps are? Is he just going to say, hey, I accomplished a lot? As Bill says, look what he accomplished with lobbing these missiles in there that did very little damage, but it got everything. It got so much done by doing that. But does he give into going the next steps? Are we going to send in 150,000 troops and do a regime change thing? And I'm a little bit older, and I'm kind of a Cold War type of person. I grew up during the Cold War, but I also was very obsessed with World War II and how it was kind of this heroic thing that America did. And I look at that, the way we did things then, back when people would say, oh, that was when America was great. And I fast forward to today, and I'm like, hey, if we want to do it like we did back then, we don't go to war unless it's a commitment to conquer the entire country and get a full unconditional surrender. And that's not, I'm not really feeling that about the Syria thing.
No, I don't. You don't hear that case being made very well.
Right.
One, I guess, theory, one take that I have on this that I'm sort of been cooking up and mulling over is the part of this that I really don't buy is that Trump didn't call Putin.
Yeah, that seems unbelievable.
That seems completely ridiculous to me. As ridiculous as the story that Ivanka came into Trump in tears.
Yeah.
Oh, Ivanka cried and people died.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they were chanting Ivanka cried, people died, and which is ironic because I don't think anybody died in the missile attack, did they?
No, there's 0 casualties reported because Putin got the call and the troops got out.
Right, an hour ahead of time.
Yeah, I think, and I would not be surprised if there is back-channel communication between Trump and Putin that may have been going on since Trump won the election.
That's collusion.
Right, and so he can't talk about it because of Louise Mensch and these Democrat idiots who've set the stage. But you mentioned World War II.
Yeah,
Trump himself is a student of World War II, a classically trained student. Went to military academy. And he knows that in World War II, it was all real politics. And the U.S. joined up with Russia to win the war. The two superpowers got together and said, hey, we have differences, but common enemy, let's do it.
Yeah, that's true. And, that was his rhetoric during the campaign trail, that he was like, why can't we be friends with Russia? We both want to defeat ISIS. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could team up and make that happen? So he actually said it multiple times. And, yeah, that I think that was a big part of the Trump movement, is that we were excited to finally have peace between us and Russia because, the Cold War ended. And I don't understand this crazy notion amongst the Democrats and rhinos that we need to treat them as if they're a communist Soviet Union, because they're not. So it's kind of weird that they would even go there.
A lot of people have pointed out that it was really when Putin started to allow Christianity to flourish again in Russia that people started turning against him.
Well, we talked about this years ago. There was an article that came out that said the leaders of the Christian church and the Christian diocese in Russia are supporting. They're giving their support to Putin and thanking him for the protection, if you will, or the flourishing of Christianity in Russia.
There you go.
That was years ago.
That was going for many, many years. It's
completely
something
gone.
Where for people who were born, under the Soviet Union up until the 80s, Christianity was not a big part of their lives. Atheism was, the religion of the state, if you will.
I believe it was outlawed.
Now it's suddenly being promoted again. Churches are allowed to be opened again. And that does not put a good taste in a lot of people's mouths in the EU, at the UN, many, many different places that are very powerful and resourceful.
Hey, real quick, I'm going to get one last take. So what do you think about this whole thing? All of last week, Sean Hannity was obsessed with it. What do you think about this whole thing with Susan Rice? Does this go away now?
You know, I've pointed out a couple times, Susan, we haven't forgot about you, honey.
Oh, okay, good. Because
and one piece on that is, go back to February. Susan Rice urged H.R. McMaster to kick out the nationalist Bannon people of the Trump administration.
And why would he? Here's the big question: what kind of relationship does he have with her that he would go along with that and not tell her to go pound sand?
Very interesting question.
Follow the money. They're dirty. They're all dirty. I feel like I need to take a shower now.
Yeah, and you're looking at some of these people that H.R. Master has brought in that are now coming into the administration. People like Gary Cohn, people like Gina Powell from Goldman Sachs. And people are going around saying, this was not the campaign I remember.
Right. Isn't Gina Powell like a longtime friend, like a real close personal friend of Ivanka?
Well, she was friends with the Clintons.
Oh, geez.
Her and her husband.
She's friends with Ivanka. She's also close friends, as you say, with the Clintons and Valerie Jarrett.
Yes, that's it.
Oh, man. This is a swamp.
It's a deep swamp.
Oh.
It ain't been drained. You know, and it lends credibility to PJW. Paul came out and was blasting the cabinet or these guys and bringing them up by name. And he's like, that's one swamp that hadn't been drained.
Yeah. There was a caller on one of the shows.
And Roger Stone had an interesting take on his show yesterday. He said, you know, Bannon, he really didn't do a great job of bringing in campaign people to the administration. And now suddenly he finds himself surrounded by globalists.
Yeah. Shocked? Are you shocked?
Where's Katrina Pearson? Where's Lynn Patton? Where's Ann Coulter? Where's Laura Ingraham?
Right. And I really thought, I thought they had given a handout to Laura to bring her in. And I was excited about that. Now she's still doing LifeSet. And I'm like, dude, what? What happened?
And she's blasting on him now for the Syrian conflict. So she was kind of that isolationist, I guess. But had she been a part of the cabinet, maybe things would be a little different. So it's hard to say.
Well, Bannon having the trouble he's having with Kushner and screaming, you're a Democrat, which he is, and having issues with Democrats being in the office, you're right about that. He didn't bring in the right people, and he let the Dems come in.
When you have inside information for the most part, what is the real story between the rivalry, if you will, between Bannon and Jared Kushner?
From what I hear, it's that Kushner is the one who brought in Gary Cohn and Gina Powell.
Jeez.
And they are looking for more of interventionist, globalist policy when it comes to not only economics, but foreign policy. So a lot of this is also tied to the tariff issue, which there's a new executive order that's going to be coming out next week, looking at trade practices. And that's something that's Bannon's bread and butter.
Okay.
And he really wants that tariff. He really wants to build the wall. He wants American nationalism. But there are some very, very powerful interests that do not want that tariff to go through.
Well, that was like kind of a big campaign promise, wasn't it?
Absolutely was. It was, I'm putting these companies on notice. If you move your businesses out of the U.S. and try to sell stuff, you're not going to find it as easy as you used to. He said that in Detroit to the leaders of the motor vehicle companies, and they've never heard a president talk like that before.
They were excited. They were excited.
They put him. Well, he put them all on notice, and they took him for real. It wasn't like when Obama told Putin, "Hey, cut it out."
Well, do you think that Trump doesn't really recognize the difference between somebody who's a globalist and somebody that's a nationalist? Do you think he does? I know that Rush always says he's not an ideologue. He doesn't think in terms of ideology, but. I think that's a pretty important question. It's almost like a lens or a filter that he needs to kind of send everybody through.
I agree. I think that he's not an ideologue. I think he's someone who likes to make deals. who likes to negotiate, who likes to find ways to, play both sides to his own benefit. He's obviously been amazing at that, got himself elected president.
Right.
So it seems to me like his strategy, and this is just my take on it, is, well, maybe if I can get in some of these people because they have all these resources and all this power, instead of fighting them, maybe I can kind of work around them, but at the same time accomplish some of these other goals.
And he's been able to do that. Well, let's split this in two. As a businessman and a capitalist, absolutely, I'll work with anybody at any time and any place, anywhere, left, right, whatever you are, whatever your ideology is. I'm a capitalist and I will work with you. And if the deal turns out to be in my benefit, I'll accept it. If it doesn't, I'll walk away. Well, Trump, you're in a different position now.
Right.
Agreeing to work with anybody and everybody at any given time, almost kind of reminiscent of reaching across the aisle. I'm not saying he's doing that, but damn it, man,
it ends up being that way, like a de facto.
There's an interesting quote that's been going around from Gary Cohn, number 2 at Goldman Sachs, and apparently he told people that I was going to be in this White House regardless of who won.
That's not good.
It's probably very true.
I wouldn't doubt it. That's not good as far as ideology is concerned. I wonder if he doesn't realize that, unlike what Brian just pointed out with the if you're capitalist, you work with whoever to get the deal done and you just make money however you make money. But in the ideological world, political world, if you will, if you compromise to a leftist, that's ground you lost forever. And
because they never give back. It's like taxes.
Yeah.
You never undo a tax.
Or you certainly aren't going to undo or change Social Security. You got the Department of Education. You got the IRS. These are things that are all leftist ideas that were put in place that we're just stuck with them. It seems like.
Well, and this, you can't even make that argument anymore.
Right. And
right.
It's a bridge too far.
And just because we're running out of time here, over the whole healthcare thing, there was a shock about that, bringing up, you can't take this stuff away. Medicaid, babies born in Medicaid, California 50%, New York 51%, Nevada 64%.
Oh, that's really
New
high.
Mexico, babies born under Medicaid 72% in the country of New Mexico.
Yeah,
we've got to. I mean, that's serious stuff,
right. And that's a big part of the healthcare problem. Do you hear that they're going to actually revisit that anytime soon? Or you know how it is in the past when something doesn't go through in Congress, that's something that they just leave. They leave it alone. They don't ever revisit it.
From what I've been told, Trump has been working with Rand Paul to listen to Rand and what he has to say about his plans for directly repealing Obamacare and replacing it, but Paul Ryan wants nothing to do with it.
That's not good.
It's getting blamed. He's being exposed, and this is the first time Paul Ryan.
Get rid of him.
Paul Ryan's being exposed for who he is. He's up against Donald Trump, who's the deal maker, and Paul Ryan. In my mind, this is just my opinion. Paul Ryan doesn't know how to deal with the deal maker.
No, Paul's never had that kind of leverage. Paul, he was sort of, he didn't even want to be speaker in the first place.
Right. I thought that was him trying to negotiate leverage. Like, no, you got to beg me.
And they really did beg him because he really didn't want it.
Hey, I'll tell you what, everybody get on their knees and maybe I'll think about it. That's honestly.
Remember, he had this weird thing where like, I'm only going to work 60 hours a week and no weekends, and you remember all that?
He really is a leftist. Wow.
Very weird.
Yeah. 16 hours. Did you say 16 hours a week?
60.
That's a lot.
60.
60. Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot of hours.
Yeah, that's like 12. That's like 5 12s. We used to work that. Dude, It was nuts.
Why would he want to work 60 hours a week?
It's a lie.
Oh, whatever.
It's to get the job.
Anyway.
I've worked 60 hours a week for a long time. Dude, it's unsustainable.
Oh, is speaker an hourly job?
Right.
He gets overtime. Oh, my gosh.
That slush fund just gets bigger.
Well, I think we hit all the bases with you. You got anything else, Brian?
No, I'm good, Jack. You got anything else? Last words?
Just give a quick plug. If you guys want to catch up with anything I'm doing, you can follow on YouTube at Rebel Media. That's where we're putting this stuff out right now.
Great videos there.
We've got YouTube videos. We do things. We keep the videos 5 to 6 minutes. So not only can you get the update of what's going on, but we break it down in such a way, and we use graphics and everything, so that you could send it to somebody that's not really into this, that's not as deep into the weeds, and they're going to get it.
All right, excellent. So at Rebel Media on Twitter?
No, for Twitter, it's just my name, at Jack Posobiec.
Okay.
Yeah, spell that out.
Posobiec.
Okay, excellent. And then on the YouTube, it's at Rebel Media.
Rebel Media.
Yeah. Rebel Media, yep. Right. Awesome.
Well, excellent. Thanks for calling in, Jack.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Don't be a stranger, buddy.
Hey, appreciate it, guys.
You're welcome.
Talk to you later.
Okay, bye. All right. Wow. What an incredible call. That was awesome.
Good info.
I'm really happy about the thing with Susan Rice, about how we're not forgetting about her. And regardless, whatever she says.
I'm glad we revisited it, because I forgot to ask him when we were talking about the McMaster's thing, and Cernovich in particular, his breaking news, if there's any truth or reality to Susan Rice being involved with that, because that's a shocker.
Right.
That's a shocker to hear that McMaster's wanted.
That's
Susan
sick.
Rice
I'm sick. I'm throwing up in my mouth just even thinking about that. So there was some things going around saying that Trump had no legalities. There's no legal of any kind.
Gosh,
and
we could talk for 15 minutes.
I won't. But Marco Rubio,
the
little Mark, came out, and this is what he had to say about that real quick.
It was the right decision for a number of reasons. Number one, Assad had signed an agreement not to have chemical weapons. It was an agreement that the Russians and the United States were signatories to and a part of. They also signed the convention not to have weapons, and then they had a UN Security Council.
Okay, there's more to that, but we'll shut him down. Oh, there you go. You don't need much more than that. UN Security Council, there are things signed, treaties, stuff is signed.
Yeah, I wrote an entire article that I uploaded on Sick Bias a long time ago, making the case for the war in Iraq, and it was the 19 UN security resolutions that were violated that justified us resuming the Gulf War. That's what it really was. And so there's a justification there. I could see he was trying to make the same case there with Syria, and I don't have a problem with that. Another legal hurdle is that people are talking about is, how does Donald Trump, the president of the United States, go to war with somebody without getting a declaration from Congress? So I actually researched it a little bit, and I was pretty surprised. A lot of articles out there.
He's got open-ended for a short time.
When I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
The articles I read made it sound like, well, it depends on which congressman or senator you're talking to. It varies. Right. And I'm like, wait a minute, that can't be legal. There's got to be some procedure that's written in the law. And then Brian points out the other day.
Yeah, it's open.
45 days.
Something like that.
And
months.
I said, well, wait a minute. What if you do a military operation, and then before 45 days is over, you do another military operation that might not be related?
Sure, keep it going.
So Brian said it resets the clock.
Yeah. So
that's hilarious.
I know. Down the last couple of minutes, just really quick, just run up some Yahoo News reporting. The AP out of Paris, in France, bracing for possible Le Pen nightmare.
What?
Marine Le Pen. What if Marine Le Pen wins in May?
That's called making France great again.
Yes, exactly. Venezuela, the opposition leader running for president, Enrique Capriles, has been banned by the current government and dictator Nicolas Maduro, who is a former truck driver. They've banned the opposition party for running for president for 15 years. He's not allowed to run.
And they did that because why? Did you do something wrong?
Yeah, nobody knows. Catholic Church in Venezuela calls for resistance against the socialist self-coup and current dictator. Christians, the church, calling for Christians to peacefully resist the current socialist dictator.
Well, that's good. I like to hear that. That's like good news.
That's really good. Sanctuary cities no more. Greg Abbott, Governor Greg Abbott out of Texas. We will punish law enforcement punish all law enforcement that doesn't follow their jobs. Illegal immigration down 30% so far and 64% from last year. Jobless claims dropped to a 2-year low. I'm telling you, there's a lot of bad news out there, but you listen to Smith Radio, there's a lot of good news because I'm going to tell you about the stuff mainstream media won't tell you because it's good. It's good for America, and Donald Trump's making it right. That's about all I got to say.
Fastest 3 hours in radio.
That's no lie, man.
Yes.
3 hours goes by so fast.
And it's real 3 hours. Those other guys that do 3 hours, they get commercials. It's really
there's no bathroom break. There's no fade off. There's no George Norrie walk away.
George Norrie's going to call one day and be like, he's going to get us talking, and then he's going to go to the bathroom. That's what he's going to do. He always does that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Good night, folks.
See ya.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.